Herag gripped the wooden tray, feeling the chill in his body melt away. The flow of his magic power no longer felt distant or hard to grasp. Ribbit, ribbit, the toad crawled over, and as it drew near, sheer terror flashed across Shavara's face. It stopped at Herag's feet, lifted its head, and let out a croak. Herag couldn't understand it, but he could tell one thing clearly. The toad didn't seem hostile to him. It sniffed around in a strangely human manner, then slowly turned its gaze toward Shavara. Shavara's long black hair stood on end, as if struck by lightning. Ribbit! With another croak, the toad began crawling toward her. Shavara scrambled backward, moving far faster than her earlier sluggish pace, panic written all over her. The toad, by contrast, advanced unhurriedly, eyes locked onto her like a predator watching its prey. Then, in an instant, the world around Herag lost all color. Grass, flowers, trees, everything turned into shades of black and white. The next heartbeat, the toad's mouth yawned impossibly wide, and Shavara vanished in a single gulp. Only a clump of black hair writhed frantically at the edge of its mouth before being swallowed. Cracks began to spread through the space around them, like shattered glass across reality itself. Herag watched the world splinter around him as the toad turned its head back to him and croaked once more. A breeze brushed past. Herag smelled damp earth and forest plants. Insects chirped again in the bushes. He blinked, and color flooded back into the world. He was standing exactly where he had first noticed the anomaly. Herag ran over to the place where Loon and the others had been devoured. The ground was bare. No corpses, no blood. Not even the 3 human skins remained. What a waste. Loon probably had something valuable on him. Herag clicked his tongue. He had been planning to search their bodies. But then he sighed. Just getting out of that place alive was already more than enough. Looting could wait for another day. The strange toad, Shavara suddenly appearing, that twisted space. Herag understood none of it. His head was full of questions and not a single answer. He lowered his gaze to the wooden tray in his hands. It had returned to its ordinary state, the faint yellow glow gone. This should be connected to the 6th ring tower. But what is the 6th ring tower, really? When he'd first arrived at Moonlight Forest, he had searched the library's first floor specifically for information on it, but found nothing. He didn't know if Moonlight Forest truly had no record of it, or if anything related to the 6th ring tower was stored on the higher levels of the library that he couldn't yet access. Herag shelved those doubts for now, and quickly left Moonlight Forest. He wasn't planning to set foot there again anytime soon. No one knew why a demon from the abyss like Shavara would suddenly appear here, much less why it would be chasing 3 wizards from Green Cottage. And now Loon and the other 2 had died on Moonlight Forest territory. Wizards had countless ways to investigate such things. Green Cottage would definitely notice that their 3 members had vanished here. When that happened, Moonlight Forest would not be able to give any explanation that sounded reasonable, and it would easily look like a deliberate provocation. Knowing Moonlight Forest's usual behavior, they probably wouldn't bother to explain at all, which would only deepen the conflict between the 2 sides. Once that happened, this border region would turn extremely unstable. As a mere first-class wizard apprentice, Herag had no intention of getting dragged into that mess. Back in Moonlight Forest, his first stop was the trading hall, where he exchanged over 170 sleeping mushrooms for magic stones. Andrew was still stationed at the counter. When he saw the pile of sleeping mushrooms, his eyes widened in surprise. But then his expression shifted, becoming strange, as if he wanted to say something but swallowed it back. Only after Herag left with 17 magic stones in hand did Andrew mutter quietly toward the doorway, "Don't tell me he killed them." Herag wandered around town for a while until he found a herb shop. The owner, a middle-aged man with layers of cloth wrapped around his head, stood at the entrance with a basket of herbs, letting them air out in the good weather. "Boss, do you have white peony root, beetroot, golden bellflower, those kind of herbs?" Herag asked as he walked up. The owner gave a knowing smile. "You might as well ask directly for the ingredients for white sage healing potion. A full set of raw materials is 2 magic stones. After chatting for a bit, Herag learned that most basic magic potions had their raw materials sold as pre-sorted sets. There was no need to buy each herb individually. A full set of ingredients for White Sage Healing Potion cost 2 magic stones. The finished potion, on the other hand, sold for 5. If every batch successfully brewed into a potion, that meant a profit of 3 magic stones per bottle. Demand for White Sage Healing Potion was high and stable. 5 magic stones was expensive for an average wizard apprentice, but the potion was indispensable. White Sage Healing Potion could heal most common injuries. For wizards constantly heading out on missions, it was a must-have. Since Herag couldn't return to Moonlight Forest, he had just lost a major source of income. In his current condition, taking on dangerous missions for magic stones was too risky. He needed another way to earn. Looking at his options, alchemy seemed like the best path. For most people, unless they specialized in potion making, their success rate in alchemy was abysmally low. They would never even think of alchemy as a way to make money. They just prayed they wouldn't lose everything they invested. But Herag had Shenlan. With Shenlan's assistance, he could drastically increase his success rate. "Boss, I'll take 10 sets of White Sage Healing Potion ingredients," Herag said. He had only 22 magic stones. With this single purchase, he nearly emptied his savings. The shop owner raised his brows. 10 sets. All right, he could already guess what Herag was planning. He had seen many wizard apprentices try to earn money through potion making, and usually, they ended up losing their shirts. But he kept his thoughts to himself. Business was business. After buying the ingredients, Herag headed to the flea market and picked up some second-hand alchemy equipment. Cauldrons, test tubes, beakers, scales, and so on. They were cheap. With just 1 gold coin, he bought 2 full sets. Back home, Herag cleared out a room specifically for alchemy. He then took a yellow ear-shaped object out of his space ring and chanted a short string of syllables. The ear floated up and began to drift through the room. A powerful suction pulled from the ear canal, sucking in all the dust and debris as it moved. This was a common wizard tool used to clean rooms, called a clear ear. No one knew where the things swallowed by the clear ear ended up. Once sucked in, they were never recovered. So before using it, you always had to pack away anything you didn't want to lose. The room had been completely empty before. Herag had only just cleaned it with the clear ear, since it had been choked with dust. He unpacked the equipment he'd bought and began arranging the space. One side became the area for handling herbs, another for brewing potions, and a third for reactions and measurements. He followed the experimental layout and safety procedures Larry had drilled into him, down to the small details. Just setting everything up took nearly 4 hours. Only then did he eagerly bring out the raw materials for White Sage Healing Potion, ready to begin his first proper batch. Shenlan, start White Sage Healing Potion refinement. Provide step-by-step instructions, temperatures, timings, and all relevant tips. Magic Potion Refinement Assistance activated. Shenlan had already stored the refining procedures for every potion listed in Basic Introduction to Magic Potions. Combined with Larry's lab rules, it had integrated everything into a complete alchemy assistance system. In Herag's vision, a series of clear flowcharts appeared. Step 1. Wash white peony root. Then soak in alkaline water for 30 minutes, Shenlan prompted. Herag recalled the process as written in the book, then followed Shenlan's guidance step by step, handling each ingredient carefully. Golden bell flower extract temperature approaching 75 degrees Celsius. Transfer to beaker in 30 seconds. White peony root extract and beetroot concentrate have reacted for 15 minutes. 1 minute remaining. Remove on time. Countdown, 59 seconds. Herag held a test tube filled with milky liquid and gently swirled it while chanting a dozen strange syllables. Magic power pulsed from his body into the test tube. The solution began to emit white vapor, which twisted and shaped itself into the faint outline of a plant. White Sage Healing Potion successfully refined, Shenlan reported. Herag let out a long breath. Potion making was more demanding than he had expected. It required constant focus and spiritual control. A single late step or minor distraction could ruin the entire batch. And this was just the most basic healing potion. It made the difficulty of something like the Dawn Potion easy to imagine. Fortunately, I have Shenlan, he thought. Otherwise, there's no way I could keep the temperature and timing this precise. He took a special potion vial, poured the white sage healing potion into it, and plugged it with a wooden stopper. One standard potion, complete. 2 magic stones in the bag, Herag murmured, feeling a small sense of satisfaction. Next, with 9 sets of ingredients left, he cleaned the workspace according to proper procedures and started on the next batch. He continued brewing until midnight. He didn't stop because he was exhausted, but because it was time for his daily meditation. By then, he had successfully refined 4 bottles of white sage healing potion and ruined 1 batch by mistake. Losing that set of materials felt like a stab to the heart. 2 magic stones gone. Sighing, he brewed himself a cup of coffee and sat down for meditation practice. He was already close to completing the 5th star. Herag had a feeling that tonight he could finish it. On the side, a pot of meteor grass decoction simmered, the liquid bubbling with faint green foam. This stuff becomes useless after reaching 2nd class apprentice, he thought. The body develops resistance. Meditation slows down too. Herag had a love-hate relationship with meteor grass. It was a common ingredient in potions and widely used in spirit-stabilizing brews. A few hours later, as the sky outside began to lighten, Herag opened his eyes. His gaze felt deeper, sharper. He let out a slow, heavy exhale. Herag Merlin, Power 2.5, Agility 2.4, Constitution 3.6, Spirit 8.5, Magic Power 100%. This meditation had boosted him significantly. Not just spirit, but his physical stats had also climbed. After passing 8 points in spirit, his perception of the free energy particles in nature sharpened dramatically. He could now vaguely distinguish subtle differences between some of them. Are these particles of different attributes? He wondered. His perception was still fuzzy, but combined with what he'd learned about elemental magic, the guess made sense. Good thing my aptitude isn't bad. Otherwise, who knows how long it would take to finish meditating on all these stars. His aptitude score was 75. Among wizard apprentices, that was considered quite good. Larry's willingness to invest in him was largely because of this potential. Aptitude determined how sensitive one was to the free energy in the world. The keener the sense, the easier it was to perceive and absorb those particles during meditation. That meant higher efficiency and faster progress. In Herag's mind, the array map lit up a 5th star. 5 more positions remained dark. Shenlan, what happens when an entire array lights up? He asked curiously. No data available. Shenlan could optimize based on the meditation method's principles, but no existing practice records existed for this specific array. It had no information on what would happen at completion. After completing his daily routine, Herag went straight back to the lab and resumed refining white sage healing potions. The day passed in a blur of brewing, filtering, heating, and chanting. Under the sparse moonlight that night, he looked at the 9 bottles lined up on the table and felt genuinely pleased. This time, he hadn't made a single mistake. With his spirit much stronger, his focus and stability had clearly improved. 9 bottles, 45 magic stones. After deducting the cost, I cleared 25 magic stones, Herag calculated. Then I buy more ingredients, refine more potions, and sell again. Once it was time for meditation, he stored the potions in his space ring and began his nightly practice. He was now just 1 star away from meeting the spiritual power requirement for 2nd class apprentice. Once that was done, he could start preparing the materials needed for the Dawn Potion. Herag tilted his head back, mentally searching for a new star in the sky to lock onto for meditation. Why was the sky that day so completely different? As he meditated, memories surfaced of the night he had encountered Shivara. The starry sky then had looked nothing like the one above him now. Shenlan, did you record the starry sky from that day? Herag asked. Based on visual records, the star map is as follows. A star map appeared in front of his inner sight. Herag studied it carefully, but no matter how he compared it, he couldn't find any part that matched the current sky. Shenlan, compare that map to the current sky. Look for similarities. Comparison complete. No similarities found. Every time Herag had a quiet moment, that day's events bothered him. He replayed each detail, before and after, but still had no idea how he'd been drawn into that strange space, or what kind of place it really was. And that toad, just before the space shattered, if I didn't imagine it, it swallowed Shavara in a single bite. Herag pondered these questions as he continued meditating. In Moonlight Forest, there were two ways to buy potions. One was through the official magic pharmacy. The quality was guaranteed, but the prices were slightly higher than the market rate. For example, the market price of White Sage Healing Potion was 5 magic stones. The pharmacy sold it for 6. The other option was to buy from other wizards.
Hey everyone, Firescale Audiobooks here. If there's a novel you'd love to hear more of, you can support us on Patreon or Ko-fi. Depending on your tier, I'll make extra parts just for the stories you're most excited about. Usually I can only upload 4 to 5 parts of each novel, but with your support, we can go beyond that. And of course, don't forget to hit subscribe. It helps more than you know.
Herag prepared to go to the flea market to sell White Sage Healing Potions. This is a common magic potion at the flea market and sells quite well. He planned to first sell the ones he had on hand to see how it goes, and if there were any issues, he would consider other options. Although the potions made by wizard apprentices can't compare to those officially sold by Moonlight Forest, they are generally quite effective and sufficient for their needs. The flea market is essentially a plaza. Herag was getting ready to find a spot to set up his stall when he encountered someone he knew. Leo, wearing glasses, was sitting on a small stool with a thick book in hand, surrounded by stacks of books in front of him. Leo, Herag greeted him. Leo turned his head and, upon seeing Herag, adjusted his glasses and smiled. Long time no see, Herag. Is there anyone next to you? I'm planning to set up a stall here. Herag asked. He saw that both sides of Leo were empty, with no one setting up stalls. No one. The stalls at the flea market are unclaimed. First come, first served, Leo explained. Hearing this, Herag felt relieved, took out 4 bottles of White Sage Healing Potion from his bag, and laid them out in front of him. He then took out a book, like Leo, to seize the time for learning. He was reading Basic Principles of Meditation. Herag had been learning a lot lately, and in such a short time, he certainly couldn't digest it all. He needed to spend more time delving into his studies. Shenlan could indeed allow him to progress faster, but it could also become a future hindrance to further advancement. The only thing I can always trust is myself. Even Shenlan is merely an external force. Seeing Herag take out 4 bottles of White Sage Healing Potion, Leo was surprised. Have you learned magic potion making already? I've barely managed to learn it, but practicing cost me dearly, so I'm forced to come out in exchange for some magic stones to cut my losses, Herag said with a gloomy face, as if he had lost a lot of magic stones. Leo nodded understandingly. For us wizard apprentices without much background, it's best not to dabble in magic potion making at first. It's too costly. Indeed, it's not something poor people can afford to play with. Once I sell off this batch of potions, I won't do it anymore, Herag lamented. He gave up on continuing to make White Sage potions to earn magic stones. The small number of potions he had could be explained, as many wizard apprentices, when first learning magic potion making, would concoct White Sage Healing Potions to sell, which was quite normal. However, if Herag produced a large quantity of potions, it would be suspicious, as most people don't have a high success rate in potion making. If Herag brought out 20 bottles of White Sage Healing Potion, it would generally require at least 60 sets of raw materials, which is no small amount. As a first-class wizard apprentice, where would he get so much money? It would only cause unnecessary trouble. Herag now hoped to minimize any trouble, and the money for the Dawn Potion could be gathered by doing other tasks. Is this the White Sage Healing Potion? After a while, a customer arrived. It was a male wizard apprentice with red curly hair, looking around 20 years old. Herag replied, "Yes, it is. May I take a look?" Herag smiled. Of course you can. When wizards trade potions, they usually inspect the quality, especially since they aren't officially sold by Moonlight Forest. Many novice wizard apprentices, even if they fail in potion making, will boldly sell their potions, often swindling those uninformed apprentices. Many people get scammed every year. It's a common occurrence. More experienced wizard apprentices will carefully check the quality before buying potions. The curly-haired wizard examined the white sage healing potion meticulously, checking its color, turbidity, and other aspects. After a moment, he said, "This potion is quite good. I'll take 2 bottles." "Deal." Herag handed over a bottle and received 10 magic stones. White Sage Healing Potion sold even better than Herag anticipated. The 4 bottles sold out quickly. Herag took out another 3 bottles, planning to keep 2 for himself. Leo widened his eyes at those 3 bottles of potion. "Did you spend that much money?" "Sigh." Herag sighed. "Don't mention it. I still owe Mr. Larry quite a bit." Leo suddenly understood, as if something dawned on him. "I see. I envy you." Herag smiled without saying anything, not explaining further. Just a little leverage from Mr. Larry. Herag mentioned Mr. Larry only to create some ease for himself. After exchanging a few more words, they returned to their books. Business was a bit slow on Leo's side, with no customers for a long time. Herag's stall, however, had another customer soon after. This time, it was a tall woman wearing a black wizard apprentice robe. As she passed by, she took a glance at the white sage healing potions on Herag's stall, let out an exclamation, and squatted down to pick up a bottle for inspection. Herag estimated that the woman was about 1.8 meters tall, and squatting down, her long legs were quite prominent, giving the impression that everything below the neck was all legs. "Did you make this potion?" the woman asked. Herag nodded. "Yes, I did." "Just 3 bottles? Do you have more?" Herag laughed. "I don't have that many magic stones to buy materials, just these." "All right, you're pretty good at this. I'll take all 3 bottles." The woman promptly took out 15 magic stones and left. Herag watched her leave in a hurry. Couldn't resist taking another glance at those long legs partially hidden by the robe. 7 out of 9 bottles of white sage healing potion were sold, netting 35 magic stones. "Leo, I'm heading out." Herag called over to Leo, who was still engrossed in his book. Leo nodded stiffly, not taking his eyes off his book. Seeing him this way, Herag couldn't help but smile, thinking, despite Leo's hard work, he's still a first-class wizard apprentice. I wonder if it's due to a lack of resources or poor aptitude. On his way back, Herag observed other stalls. There were quite a few selling potions, and many of them sold white sage healing potions, but most of them were of average quality. Herag's white sage healing potion was milky white, slightly inferior to the pure white ones sold by Moonlight Forest. This small gap was currently insurmountable for him, as it was due to the differences in spiritual power. The potions sold by Moonlight Forest were mostly made by capable third-class wizard apprentices or official wizards. Their magic power quality was beyond Herag's reach, and it required high-quality magic power to make the best potions. Those others sold white sage healing potions that were slightly yellowish, some even entirely yellow, bordering on unusable quality. This sight further convinced Herag that he couldn't rely on potion selling to make money, at least not until he had enough strength. After returning home, Herag took out a talisman stone, browsing for suitable tasks. He currently had a total of 37 magic stones, not even enough for 1 set of dawn potion materials. A task caught Herag's attention. Hunt the stone giant. Reward for processing the stone giant's heart and familiarity with magic potions. 20 magic stones. Forest, he would be unprotected. If he dared to deceive, they could easily deal with him. Rest assured, I'm not one to break the rules. Otherwise, who would dare cooperate with me in the future? Sit down. The others will arrive soon, Bessie explained. Herag nodded and sat down by the table, knowing that taking this task involved risks, and everything out of the Moonlight Forest depended on his ability to adapt. But what task doesn't involve risk? Even picking mushrooms can lead to so many problems, Herag sighed internally. The two chatted willingly and unconsciously about topics related to magic potions. Herag knew a lot about these topics, as Shenlan's database stored a wealth of information. Whatever question Bessie raised, Herag could immediately respond and expand into many subjects. Truly knowledgeable Mr. Herag. Bessie was genuinely surprised at how knowledgeable a first-class wizard apprentice could be, and it indeed astonished her. Soon after, two other people Bessie had arranged arrived. One named Rock Dean, a third-class wizard apprentice, wore a heavy spectacle frame and entered with a scrutinizing glance at Herag. The other, named Emma Marcy, was a freckled-faced woman who seemed to have a close relationship with Bessie as they hugged upon meeting. After the group sat down and introduced themselves to each other, Bessie said, "Everyone's here. Let's discuss the plan. Departure time is 2 days later. I'll prepare everything needed. Herag will handle the stone giant's heart. He won't participate in the combat." After Bessie finished, Rock spoke. "I have a question. Why bring a first-class wizard apprentice to handle the stone giant's heart?" Though Herag is only a first-class wizard apprentice, his expertise in magic potions is high, so I'm assured of his capability, Bessie explained. Rock sipped his coffee. "If you think that's fine, then so be it." Rock's job was to deal with the stone giant, regardless of whether the heart would be handled successfully or not. The stone giant generally requires third-class wizard apprentices to manage. Bessie invited 2 third-class wizard apprentices this time, which made success almost certain. Herag was too weak to directly engage in combat, avoiding being affected by the fighting. If Herag were injured or killed due to combat, handling the stone giant's heart would fall to the 3 of them, who weren't proficient in magic potions. Magic potions require a lot of financial resources and supplies. Most wizard apprentices struggle to gain substantial experience without ample accumulation. After confirming the specifics, they left the cafe, with Herag returning home to begin preparing the potion needed to soak the stone giant's heart. Florob worm slime, hot clap juice, lionfish's stinger. After counting the necessary magic potion materials, Herag began crafting the potion called Broad Spectrum Potion. He placed Florob worm slime into a beaker, then ignited the lionfish's stinger, placing it into the beaker, and then infused magic power while chanting several syllables. Thick white mist rose continuously from the beaker, filling the room shortly thereafter. Herag wore protective goggles, ignoring the surrounding white mist, focusing heavily on the beaker. Reaction countdown of 9 seconds. Shenlan provided the countdown to the reaction time. As soon as the time ended, Herag immediately poured a pink powder into the beaker, which was ground from a fruit known as scarlet grass. 2 hours later, it's done. A round crystal bottle in front of Herag contained a purple solution that occasionally bubbled on the surface with a soft popping sound. He sealed the bottle with an oak-made stopper, having successfully crafted the broad-spectrum potion. At night, the 6-star in Herag's mind already had a basic shape, and he expected to complete meditation and fulfill advancement conditions to become a second-class wizard apprentice within 2 months. Luckily, the ingredients for the Dawn Potion can be bought in the forest, avoiding the huge risk of hunting to acquire materials. Herag was already preparing the Dawn Potion-related materials, needing only the main demon flower root, which was currently unaffordable, but completing this task would allow him to complete the necessary materials for a Dawn Potion. 2 days later, Herag met with the group at an inn in the northern forest region. The route they would take this time was not heading toward the Moonlight Forest, but towards the east. Upon arrival, Herag noticed that the inn's atmosphere was different from usual, with an official wizard and several third-class wizard apprentices stationed there, enhancing the security forces. Was it because of what happened that day? Herag thought of the incident where Loon was killed by Shavara. After Healthfoot arrived at the station, Herag and the others boarded the wagon one after another. They first needed to ride Healthfoot to the Red Mountain Range, which marked the eastern border of the Moonlight Forest. Beyond that point, they would be outside the domain of the Moonlight Forest. Herag got off the wagon, and at a glance, he saw the continuous red mountains ahead. The rocks here were relatively soft and presented a bright red color. Many maple trees grew in the mountains, turning the scenery into a fiery red world in autumn. After arriving at the Red Mountain Range station, Helfut walked to a trough nearby to eat fresh grass and then drank water in large gulps. Once it was full, it stood still, looking at Herag and the others, stamping its hooves a few times. Bessie patted Helfut's head and said, "You can go back now, little one. We won't be taking the wagon." Helfut seemed to understand, pulling the wagon back by itself. At the Helfut station, there was an ordinary wagon, and the driver was a robust young man who had been waiting here early according to Bessie's arrangements. "Get on the wagon. Let's aim to reach Rivertown tonight so we don't have to camp in the wild," Bessie said, lifting the curtain and getting in first. Herag followed closely behind. The interior of the wagon was quite spacious, with soft cushions on the seats, making it very comfortable to sit. Bessie's long legs were somewhat cramped in the wagon, requiring her to occasionally adjust her leg position to make herself more comfortable. Emma and Bessie had a close relationship and chatted about various trivial matters after boarding, such as which third-class wizard apprentice had to sleep with whom for promotion or who was having an affair with whom. Neither Herag nor Rock spoke. After getting on the wagon, Rock kept his eyes closed, seemingly meditating. Herag opened the curtain of the window, fixed it with a hook, and gazed at the scenery outside. This was his first time leaving the moonlight forest. Outside the wagon, it was a continuous stretch of maple woods, initially with no signs of any human activity. The wagon ran for about 2 hours, eventually revealing some people logging in the woods, and occasionally some wooden houses appeared, presumably resting places for the nearby lumberjacks and hunters. After another half an hour, the maple woods gradually faded behind them, and the scenery outside included more diverse landscapes. They were headed to the Thousand Needle Stone Forest to search for the stone giant, a journey expected to take 3 days, with Rivertown being their first stop. Herag closed the curtain and also began to meditate, and about 5 hours later, the wagon's speed gradually slowed down. "We're here." The driver opened the curtain, respectfully notifying the wizard apprentices inside the wagon. After getting off, Herag found himself in what appeared to be a peaceful little town. The sky had already darkened, and there were few people moving around the town, making it seem especially tranquil. Next to Rivertown, a wide river flowed through, the sound of the water murmuring. "River Inn." Herag followed Bessie and the others to an inn, where 2 lanterns hung at the entrance, emitting a pale yellow glow. "The rooms I prepared for you are upstairs. Tonight, you're the only guests staying there," said the driver, who turned out to be the innkeeper, eagerly leading the way. The inn's first-floor hall had many tables set up. This was where travelers ate and drank. For tables were occupied, with a mix of local residents and adventurers with swords by their side. The moment Herag and the others walked into the inn, they attracted attention, and upon seeing the robes they wore, people's expressions became extremely alarmed and fearful. They glanced quickly and then lowered their heads, not daring to look again, rendering the entire inn extremely quiet. Herag indeed noticed a big-bearded man trying hard to control his breathing, seemingly afraid to breathe loudly. "They seem quite afraid of us," Herag said after going upstairs. Bessie turned back. "That's normal. This area is quite close to the wizard organization. So many people are aware of wizards' existence. As we go further out, people in those places will generally not know about wizards." After a while, when they went downstairs to eat, they found that the first-floor hall was empty. Herag asked, "Where are they?" The driver bowed, smiling. "They've all left. Even those who had rooms have checked out, afraid of disturbing the rest of you." 2 days later, Herag and the others arrived at the Thousand Needle Stone Forest on horseback. The landform here was very peculiar, consisting of a sunken valley. The valley contained countless tall stone pillars, each several hundred meters high. Vegetation was scarce in the Thousand Needle Stone Forest, mostly bare yellow earth. A slight breeze could stir up clouds of dust within the stone forest. Rock walked at the front, warning those behind, "Be cautious once we enter. This is a completely neutral area, and we might encounter people from any wizard organization. If we run into people from Green Cottage, we must be particularly careful." Herag was fully attentive to Shenlan's environmental monitoring, and there seemed to be no unusual movements for the time being. Rock held an hourglass in his hand, adjusting their direction after covering a certain distance, continuing to move forward if the hourglass flipped automatically. The Thousand Needle Stone Forest was vast, and its similar terrain made it easy to get lost. The stone giant typically hid deep within the forest, sometimes even burying itself in the ground. Rock's hourglass seemed capable of locating the stone giant, leading the group through the stone forest by constantly adjusting their direction. Although Herag could use Shenlan to help search for the stone giant's location, it was a personal secret he naturally wouldn't disclose. In his mind, the map of the Thousand Needle Stone Forest was gradually being completed, with a red line clearly marking their path from the moment they entered the forest until now. An hour later, Rock suddenly stopped, and the hourglass in his hand began to turn rapidly, flipping over furiously. "We found it. It's nearby. Be cautious." He put away the hourglass and closed his eyes. Herag could sense a surge of magic power emanating from Rock's body, quickly sweeping over the surroundings. It seems to be magical perception and quite a large range, Herag estimated. Rock's magical perception was probably about 70 to 80 meters. Once Rock activated magical perception, the group slowed their forward progress. Soon, Herag noticed a colossal figure hidden behind a stone column about 200 meters ahead, seemingly hibernating underground. Stone Giant. Having discovered the stone giant, Herag didn't speak up. He continued to move silently, ready to retreat at any moment. Rock's magical perception range was still slightly short of sensing the stone giant's exact location. A moment later, Rock stopped with a serious expression, pointing to a stone column ahead. "It's behind that stone column, buried underground. Herag, find a place to hide. You can come over once we've settled this." "Stay safe," Bessie advised. Herag nodded. "Okay, you go ahead." Herag found a concealed place to hide based on the surrounding terrain feedback from Shenlan, while simultaneously observing Bessie's situation through Shenlan. Rock walked at the forefront, stopping when he was still 40 to 50 meters away from where the stone giant was sleeping. He pointed ahead, quickly reciting the syllables of a spell, and then said, "Wake up, big guy, stone spike technique." A muffled rumbling sound came from the stone giant's resting place, and a humanoid creature, seemingly composed of numerous large stones, catapulted from the underground. A massive stone column was beneath the stone giant, appearing as if the stone giant had been propped up by the column. "Roar!" The stone giant let out a deep growl, stared at Rock for a moment, then charged at him. "Quicksand trap." Rock, unhurried, used another spell. The area where the stone giant stood transformed entirely into quicksand, and due to its weight, it quickly sank into the quicksand, with only a third of its body remaining above the surface. Emma then made her move, tossing a bottle of black potion onto the stone giant. Upon breaking, the black liquid spread out. High-tier corrosion technique. After Emma chanted a few incantations, the black potion suddenly expanded, enveloping the entire stone giant. The stone giant emitted cries of agony as the stones on its body were rapidly corroded, soon revealing some blood-red muscle tissue underneath. Herag was not surprised by this scene. He knew that the stone giant's surface was stone, but its interior still had organs and muscle tissue. The stone giant was immobilized in the quicksand, its entire body covered with corrosive potion, continuously howling until its voice grew faint. Seeing it was almost done, Rock said to Bessie, "Go call Herag over." Bessie breathed a sigh of relief. They had rehearsed the plan many times before coming, and so far, everything was going smoothly. After Herag came over with Bessie, Rock waved his hand. "Rock spike." A few mud-yellow spikes rapidly formed in front of him and shot towards the stone giant, stabbing its neck and other vital parts, avoiding the heart. The stone giant's body convulsed continuously after being hit by the spikes, and after a while, its head drooped powerlessly. "That's it. Hurry up and extract the heart," Rock said as he lifted the effect of the quicksand trap, and the ground returned to its hard, muddy appearance. Shenlan, is the stone giant dead? Herag didn't rush over. He first inquired with Shenlan. The stone giant shows no signs of life, Shenlan replied. Only then did Herag approach the stone giant's corpse with ease. He took out a set of special dissection tools from his space ring. He first sliced open the stone shell at the stone giant's heart area, revealing the blood-red heart inside. The difficulty in harvesting the stone giant's heart lies in the 17 blood vessels surrounding it. They must be cut in a specific order, with each cut followed by sealing the vessel opening with pre-made magic potion mud. The entire process must be completed within a minute, which is very challenging and requires precise skill. Any mistake is unacceptable. With Shenlan's assistance, Herag performed each step with pinpoint accuracy, making this task fairly easy for him. A minute later, Herag held a faintly pulsing blood-red heart in his hands. He placed it into a crystal jar, then poured the prepared broad-spectrum potion into it, sealed the jar's lid, and thus completed the processing of the stone giant's heart. In the crystal jar, the stone giant's heart, soaked in the magic potion, pulsed gently, able to maintain its vitality for 2 months. All done. Herag handed the crystal jar to Bessie. With the completion of the mission, Bessie felt her burden lifted. She placed the jar into her space ring and then took out a bag of magic stones. Herag, this is your payment. Herag accepted it, and Shenlan quickly scanned through to confirm that there were indeed 20 magic stones. Let's hurry back. Now in possession of the stone giant's heart, Bessie grew anxious again, eager to return to Moonlight Forest to commission someone to concoct the potion and advance. Rock once again took out the hourglass and began walking back. Every location in the Thousand Needle Stone Forest looked similar, making it easy to get lost without special methods. Herag trailed behind, observing the map in his mind without speaking. Even when Rock went off course several times, he didn't point it out because the hourglass in Rock's hand would eventually indicate the deviation. After walking for half an hour, Herag suddenly slowed his pace. According to Shenlan's feedback, there were people hiding behind 2 stone pillars up ahead, a total of 3, each exuding a strong magical source. Herag couldn't call out a warning, so he merely slowed his steps, ready to bolt at a moment's notice. Rock had his magic sense activated and would soon discover the hidden enemies ahead. Soon enough, Rock indeed stopped, and then suddenly stepped on a rock and swiftly retreated. Not only him, but Herag, Bessie, and Emma also rapidly retreated. A rain of fire immediately fell on the spot they had just occupied. Rock glanced at Herag, slightly surprised that he had sensed and dodged it. Herag kept an eye on the movements of the 3 individuals, and as one of them silently cast a spell at them, Herag used the Wind Elf's blessing to accelerate his retreat immediately. What luck! I never thought we'd actually encounter people from Moonlight Forest here. Lord Malcolm did say that there's a reward for killing people from Moonlight Forest. Killing a first-class wizard apprentice earns 5 magic stones. Killing a second-class wizard apprentice earns 20 magic stones, and killing a third-class wizard apprentice earns 50 magic stones. A man with a face mask said as he emerged from behind a stone pillar, followed by the other 2. Shenlan, assess the strength of these 3, Herag ordered. Power 5.8, Agility 6.5, Constitution 6.8, Spirit 17.2. Power 5.1, Agility 6.8, Constitution 7.0, Spirit 18.6. Power 6.2, Agility 5.0, Constitution 6.7, Spirit 17.8. 3 third-class wizard apprentices. Herag, seeing Shenlan's results, felt the situation was a bit dire. On their side, there were only 2 third-class wizard apprentices, 1 second-class wizard apprentice, and 1 first-class wizard apprentice. The combat power difference was glaring. More critically, Rock and Emma might have the ability to protect themselves. If things went south, they could escape, but Herag was unsure if he could run away safely. Without hesitation, Herag decided to retreat. With Shenlan mapping the way, he had no concerns about getting lost. Bessie, noticing Herag's immediate retreat, didn't comment. It was a wise decision anyway, as Herag's presence wouldn't have added much combat value. The three adversaries didn't mind Herag's departure. A first-class wizard apprentice wasn't worth much. What mattered were the two third-class wizard apprentices in front of them. They were the true prizes. After Herag ran a distance, he could no longer sense any commotion from that side and began to take a detour towards the exit. More than 40 minutes later, Herag reached the exit, and he encountered no one else along the way. The four horses at the exit were still there, and in addition, there was also a carriage which Herag estimated belonged to the three third-class wizard apprentices. After mounting his horse, Herag began galloping madly, preparing to rush all the way back to the Moonlight Forest. From what those three said, Malcolm must have discovered that Loon died in the Moonlight Forest and blamed it on Moonlight Forest, even offering a bounty. He took off his robe and changed into casual clothes. Herag kicked the horse's belly, making it run even faster. More than an hour later, Herag felt a bit relieved, seeing no pursuers behind him. Suddenly, ahead, he heard the sounds of swords clashing, along with cries and shouts of killing. As Herag rode closer, he saw a group of bandits attacking a caravan. The bandits numbered about 30, including crossbowmen. The caravan had only a little over 10 people, desperately holding on, using the carriage as a fortification. Dead bodies lay all around. "Come on, brothers, they're about to break. These are nobles. They must have good stuff." The bandit leader, a man with a long scar across his face, was standing on the outside, directing the attack. The strongest in the caravan was a knight-level fighter in his 40s or 50s, guarding a gap in the middle of the carriage, holding a giant shield to fend off the bandits' attack. Herag just took a glance and continued on his way, not wanting to involve himself in unnecessary trouble. Riding past, the scar-faced man noticed him and spotted the 2 rings on Herag's hand at a glance, his eyes lighting up, saying, "Block him. That man has good stuff on him." 7 or 8 arrows sailed towards Herag, aiming to shoot him down. Herag had already received Shenlan's warning and ducked down to dodge the incoming arrows. "This guy's got some skills. Shoot his horse." The bandit leader continued commanding. Several arrows quickly embedded into the horse's rump and belly, causing the horse to wail and fall to the ground. Herag tumbled off, his eyes coldly fixed on the bandits. "Ha ha! Good shot, kill him." The bandit leader laughed, immediately directing 7 or 8 men to charge at Herag. At the same time, some crossbowmen started aiming at Herag, shooting arrows at him. "A shield! Mana shield! Dark energy shield!" The arrows bounced off the thick shields and fell to the ground, completely failing to harm Herag. The bandit leader's smile froze on his face when he saw the strange shields on Herag, raising a bad feeling in his heart. Clang! Herag drew his brilliant longsword and charged at the bandits. Arrows still kept coming, but without exception, all were deflected. Herag's physique now was at a knight level, and with a few strides, he was upon the bandits, severing a head with a single swing of his sword. The blades and arrows of these bandits were useless against Herag, unable to breach even the most basic defense. In the blink of an eye, Herag killed one with each step, taking down all 8 charging bandits, leaving a bloodied path. A monster! The bandits were terrified at the sight, becoming panic-stricken as they had never seen such shields like those on Herag, beyond their understanding. The bandits began to flee, even abandoning the caravan they had been assaulting. The bandit leader ran the fastest, silently mounting a horse and starting to gallop away. Herag fixed his gaze on him, swiftly forming a corrosive arrow in hand, shooting it straight toward the bandit leader. Swoosh! The corrosive arrow pierced through the bandit leader's neck, knocking him off his horse. The bandit leader's neck had a terrifying bloody hole, with black edges from corrosive energy. The bandits, having lost their leader, scattered and fled in all directions. Herag couldn't be bothered to chase them, as pursuing would only waste his travel time. He looked back at his horse, which was barely alive on the ground, and then headed towards the caravan. "Thank you, Mystic, for your help. The Allison family will forever remember your grace." The middle-aged knight knelt on one knee to thank him as Herag approached. "Hello, my name is Uffie Ellison." A noble young girl, dressed luxuriously, stepped off the carriage behind, her face delicate, legs wrapped in white stockings. Herag gave her an indifferent glance, but said nothing, and turned to ask the middle-aged knight, "Can I buy a horse?" "Buy a horse." The middle-aged knight was a bit taken aback, then quickly said, "Of course, you need not buy it. Just take whichever horse you fancy and ride away." Herag nodded, chose a strong black horse, mounted it, tossed 2 gold coins on the ground, and rode off. Uffie helped the middle-aged knight up, saying, "Uncle Shanny, I think he is the knight I've been looking for." Knight Shanny sighed helplessly. "Miss Uffie, that gentleman just now is no knight, but a legendary wizard. Don't provoke him." "But all the knight novels say so. The knight always appears when the princess is in danger, rescues her, and they live happily ever after." Uffie held a novel titled The Knight and the Rose in her hand. Shanny knew his young lady was recently infatuated with knight novels and said, "Miss Uffie, we should get back in the carriage and head home while the bandits are scared off. We must treasure these 2 gold coins." Shanny carefully picked up the 2 gold coins Herag had left, wiped off the dust, and put them in his pocket. For Herag, it was just a minor incident on his journey, and what annoyed him was the delay caused by the damned bandits. Herag made no stops along the way, only camping at night to rest briefly and let his horse graze and drink water. 3 days later, Herag arrived at the Red Mountain Range Station. He sensed a tense atmosphere as soon as he arrived, noting that a formal wizard and 3 third-class wizard apprentices were stationed there. "No one was stationed here when I left." Herag found it a bit odd. "Show me your talisman stone." A chubby third-class wizard apprentice came over to verify his identity. Herag honestly handed over the talisman stone. The chubby wizard checked it and, finding no issues, returned it to Herag. Then he took out something resembling a bamboo section and said, "This is the faceless bamboo section. Take it and suck on it once with your mouth." Herag did as instructed, and smoke puffed out of his ears, nose, and mouth, dissipating quickly. The fat wizard nodded. No problem. You can go now." "Did something happen?" Herag asked curiously. "Recently, the Green Cottage launched multiple attacks on us. To ensure safety, all wizards entering the forest must undergo identity checks," the fat wizard explained. "Is the situation this serious?" Herag felt that only a few days had passed, yet the situation had become more complex than he imagined. After putting away the faceless bamboo section, the fat wizard said, "You don't need to worry too much. Just try not to leave the forest during this period. It's still safe inside. Even if you need to go out, don't go alone. Your duty at the post station must also be quite risky." Herag felt that the defensive power at the post station was still somewhat lacking. The fat wizard smiled bitterly. "There's no choice. The tasks assigned by the forest must be carried out. There's no escaping them. In dangerous encounters, at least the official wizards can retreat unharmed, but it's much harder for those of us who are wizard apprentices. If the Green Cottage wanted to attack a post station, they certainly wouldn't just send a few wizard apprentices. Are there any mandatory tasks?" Herag asked. "Of course. As long as there is an emergency, everyone might be mobilized. You're just a first-class wizard apprentice. Your power isn't enough yet, so there's no task for you at the moment. Once your power increases, you'll be assigned tasks too," the fat wizard explained. After chatting for a while, the Hellfoot arrived. After boarding, Herag took out his talisman stone and started browsing Gossip Tavern. And sure enough, he saw many discussions about the Green Cottage attacks. 3 first-class wizard apprentices picking sleeping mushrooms in the Moonlight Forest were killed. I saw the scene. Their bodies were hung on trees. The people from Green Cottage are too arrogant. Calculating over the past few days, there have been over 20 casualties. Why have the people from Green Cottage suddenly gone mad? It said they have a bounty. Killing one of our third-class wizard apprentices is worth 50 magic stones. Am I worth that much? I almost want to kill myself to claim the bounty." Herag continued to browse other posts. Many wizard apprentices who went out on missions had encountered attacks from the Green Cottage. It seems we're not an isolated case. They must have some source of intelligence, an insider. Herag realized that the Green Cottage must have some special means of obtaining internal intelligence from the Moonlight Forest. Otherwise, it wouldn't be possible for so many wizard apprentices on missions to encounter danger. He glanced at Bessie's chat box, but there was still no message. After Herag escaped, he sent a message to Bessie asking about their situation, but still no reply after 3 days. He had a vague sense of unease and wondered if Bessie's group could escape. 3 days later, while meditating, Herag suddenly opened his eyes. His talisman stone flashed. He opened it to see a message from Bessie. Emma is dead. Seeing the message from Bessie, Herag thought the 3 of them were safe, but unexpectedly, the third-class wizard apprentice Emma had died. Emma didn't manage to escape to save me. Bessie quickly sent another message. Bessie had a good relationship with Emma, and Herag could imagine how sad she must be. After all, it's extremely difficult for wizards to have a friend. Herag, can you take me to see Mr. Larry? I want to commission him to help me concoct the Dawn and Dusk potion. I must become a third-class wizard apprentice. I must become a wizard. Bessie continued. No problem. I can take you there tomorrow. Herag had already arranged to meet Larry to discuss some precautions about the Dawn potion the next day. Thank you, Herag. Bessie sent this message and then said no more. Herag then opened Larry's chat box, explained the situation, and Larry readily agreed. After all, business was coming to his door, and there was no reason to turn away. Shenlan, calculate how much longer it will take to complete the last star of meditation. Recent events had made Herag increasingly anxious, eager to enhance his power, as only with power could he control his own destiny. Estimated to take another 35 days. 35 days. Herag murmured this time as he entered meditation. The next day, Herag met with Bessie at the Lion Cafe, where Rock was also present. They were still at the same table, but 4 people had become 3. My condolences. Herag saw that Bessie's eyes were still red. I'll also offer my condolences to those people. Bessie's eyes glinted with ferocity, filled with murderous intent. Bessie, you shouldn't rush into revenge. Herag noticed her unstable state and tried to advise her. Bessie calmed down and said, I understand. Rock spoke up. It's my fault. I couldn't protect her. Bessie shook her head. No, you did your best. If it weren't for you and for that place in the 1,000 Needlestone Forest full of earth elements, we might have all been unable to escape. Rock, you've done enough. Let's go, Herag. Bessie stood up and said. Herag brought her to Larry, who surprisingly came to the door to welcome them himself. I heard about Miss Emma. It's truly regrettable. I still remember her youthful and lively demeanor in my classes, Larry said with deep regret. Thank you, Mr. Larry, for remembering her. Bessie's mood again sank a bit. Back to business. The commission fee for the Dawn and Dusk potion is 100 magic stones. Miss Bessie should be aware of this, right? Larry said, pouring coffee for both of them. I have it all ready. Bessie appeared unfazed by the cost. 100 magic stones. Herag thought to himself, the magic potion crafting business is truly lucrative, a career with high upfront investment and returns. Larry leaned against the table and looked down at Bessie, saying, One more thing I must emphasize to Miss Bessie. The promotion should only begin once your spirit and emotions have completely stabilized. Otherwise, recklessly drinking the potion to advance can have terrifying consequences. Thank you, Mr. Larry, for the warning. I understand. Bessie nodded. All right, you only have 1 set of magic potion materials. To ensure everything goes smoothly, I'll prepare extra time. Usually, you need 2 sets of materials, but let's skip that this time. In about 7 days, I will start the preparation. The Dawn and Dusk potion, once crafted, will be effective for a month. Miss Bessie will need to consume it and complete the advancement within that month, Larry explained. Thank you for your efforts, Mr. Larry. Bessie bowed. Larry smiled. Wish me luck, and I also wish you success. After Bessie left, Herag stayed to inquire about details regarding the Dawn potion. Larry answered each question without reservation, offering some insights from his own experiences. He had high hopes for Herag, especially in the field of magic potion, as Herag always managed to grasp every detail excellently, to Larry's great satisfaction. A month later, Herag lay on the bed, the sixth star in his mind about to solidify and sparkle. Just before sunrise, Herag opened his eyes. Shenlan, check the current state of the body. Herag Merlin, power 2.8, agility 2.9, constitution 4.0, spirit 10.5, magic power 100%. The data in all aspects has reached the genetic limit. Herag looked at the data, silently contemplating 10.5 spiritual power, already surpassing the advancement requirements of most second-class wizard apprentices. Is it because of the starry sky meditation technique? Generally, a first-class wizard apprentice's spiritual power tops out at 8 or 9 at most. To increase further, one must advance to a second-class wizard apprentice. Herag had not yet advanced, but already had a spiritual power of 10.5. If word got out, people might slice him up for research. The body's data had also seen significant improvement, but it had already reached genetic limits. Herag did not rush to advance, but spent 5 days stabilizing his spiritual power, striving to keep his physical state steady. Next is alchemy. Herag prepared 2 sets of materials, and 1 extra set was borrowed from Larry. If he succeeded on the first try, he could return the borrowed materials. Herag heard that advancing to an official wizard requires multiple magic potions, drinking another if the first one isn't enough. Failure to advance means death. The advancement from a first-class wizard apprentice isn't as difficult or dangerous, requiring only 1 magic potion. Demon flower root, ancient tree sap, 30 grams of obsidian, Saturn dust. In his laboratory, Herag counted the magic potion materials. The main challenge of the Dawn Potion lay in handling the demon flower root and maintaining the activity of the ancient tree sap. The ancient tree sap must be kept at a constant temperature of 83 degrees in a beaker, not a degree higher or lower, with constant monitoring. The root of the demon flower is highly toxic and must be handled carefully, filtering out all toxins, as it's the main component of the Dawn Potion's efficacy. The Dawn Potion is essentially a poison. An ordinary person would drop dead immediately after drinking it, and a first-class wizard apprentice with insufficient spiritual power would find it hard to survive. Herag took out a black sunflower-like plant from his space ring. Unlike a sunflower, the original head had turned into a human face. From the features, it was a woman's face, with tightly closed eyes and cute, sharp tiger fangs at the corners of her mouth. Rather cute. Herag didn't understand why the word cute crossed his mind. Suddenly, the woman opened her eyes, looking at Herag with a bewitching expression. Dark energy shield. I almost forgot. Damn, nearly messed up the first step. Herag was filled with dread. The demon flower has an enchanting effect and absorbs emotional energy from animals. If the demon flower absorbed emotions, its venom would mix with impurities, rendering the magic potion materials useless. The dark energy shield provides a certain defense against spells involving dark attribute energy, easily blocking the minor magic of the demon flower. Herag took a pair of scissors, placing them at the junction of the demon flower's head and root. The Dawn Potion required only the root, and the head could be kept for other magic potions in the future. Shenlan, block hearing. Herag preemptively issued the command as a precaution. The next moment, the demon flower sensed the cold scissors below, showing a human-like expression of terror. Herag exerted force, swiftly severing the head, while sealing the cut with magic power to prevent the sap inside from splattering. Oh! The demon flower opened its mouth and began to scream, but the dark energy within it was blocked by the dark energy shield, rendering its sonic attack ineffective against Herag. Given his current physique, this level of intensity was insufficient to harm his eardrums, as it was only a harvested magic potion material. After about a minute of screaming, the demon flower's expression weakened, looking tired, and soon closed its eyes. Herag soaked it in a pre-prepared glass jar, then stored it in the space ring, as it might come in handy later. The next step was pivotal and challenging. Herag placed the root of the demon flower sealed with magic power into a large beaker, then infused magic power to control the toxins inside, squeezing them out with magic power. This process required extreme care. A slight mistake in breaking the internal structure of the root would render the subsequent experiment unnecessary. The black-purple toxins slowly dripped into the large beaker, the lab silent except for the drip-drip sound of water, with time passing slowly. Herag took 8 hours to complete the preparation of the Dawn Potion, sealing the test tube with an oak stopper containing a light purple solution. Phew, exhausted. Herag finally breathed a sigh of relief, wiping the sweat from his forehead. Remaining magic power, 11%. Apart from numerous details to pay attention to, the alchemy of the Dawn Potion also consumed considerable magic power. With both physical and mental exhaustion, Herag was extremely fatigued at this moment. Luckily, it succeeded. I don't want to go through it again. That tightrope walking like tension where nothing could go wrong covered his mind. Just recalling it made Herag break out in a cold sweat. The current spiritual power is still too much pressure for completing this potion. No wonder Mr. Larry insisted on lending a set to me, apparently doubting I could succeed on the first try. Shenlan could only run simulations and calculations for each step and the timing of the next step, but every action needed his execution. The normal human brain couldn't manage such high-precision, high-intensity tasks. Only wizards with spiritual strength far exceeding ordinary people, enough focus and stamina, could accomplish it. After completing everything, Herag went downstairs to shower, still meditating while soaking in the bathtub. Although his spiritual power had reached its limit, it was already a formed habit, plus meditation could speed magic power recovery. In his mind, 6 stars connected, and the array map had only 4 positions left to illuminate. The advancement of a second-class wizard apprentice to third class requires 10 stars, matching the array map's number exactly. Maybe there's a link between them. Herag lay in the bathtub, the meditation making him oblivious to the passage of time, even the cooling bathwater unnoticed. Remaining magic power, 100%. After a night, the magic power fully recovered, and as Herag opened his eyes, his body and spirit felt refreshed. He still didn't rush to drink the potion for advancement, but intended to adjust his body state over a few days while reviewing the relevant knowledge of advancement. You succeeded on the first try? Larry was very surprised to hear the news. Many times it almost ended in failure. So hard. Herag sighed. Larry looked at Herag like a monster. You know, I had already prepared the Dawn Potion for you because I never thought you could succeed. Huh? Herag was surprised, not expecting Larry to have prepared the Dawn Potion for him. Larry smiled and said, I originally wanted you to use this opportunity to gain some experience in magic potion refining. The Dawn Potion is still too difficult for you, but you actually succeeded. Genius. I've seen many wizards, and your talent in magic potion is unparalleled. Your wizard aptitude is 75 points, but your talent in magic potion can be rated as 95 points. Herag touched the back of his head, not expecting such high praise from Larry. During the refining process of the Dawn Potion, Shenlan played a crucial role, and without Shenlan, he would have truly been unable to succeed. Thank you, Mr. Larry, for your compliment. Here is the unused portion of the Dawn Potion materials I borrowed from you. Herag returned the unused materials. Larry snapped his fingers to collect the materials, then said solemnly, In a few days, you'll be a second-class wizard apprentice. The academy might assign you some tasks. Tasks? Larry explained. You know about the recent matter with the Green Cottage, right? Initially, it was just Malcolm's personal vendetta, and such clashes have happened before. But a week ago, both sides had level 1 wizards confront each other. Level 1 wizards. Herag realized the severity of the situation. Conflicts between wizard apprentices were only trivial matters. Once level 1 wizards are involved, it escalates to a conflict between 2 wizard organizations. Thus, it can be foreseen that in the upcoming period, our battles with Green Cottage won't cease, and the situation will only become tenser. I can see from the magic potions the forest commissioned me to refine in this period that they plan something big. Both sides seem to want to use this as an excuse to go all out, and the battle won't cease easily. It might even evolve into a war between two wizard organizations. Herag had read in some tomes about the records of wizard wars. Even official wizards might not be able to protect themselves, let alone wizard apprentices, who in such times become expendables. Many magic arrays are even triggered by the sacrifice of hundreds of wizard apprentices, unleashing great power. I still remember the last wizard war I personally experienced. Every day, countless people died in various tragic ways. The night after the war ended, few houses in the northern forest region had their lights on, Larry recalled. Were there no wizard apprentices who escaped? Herag asked. In times of large-scale wars, weaker wizard apprentices should choose to flee knowing danger has arrived. Larry helplessly shook his head. Do you remember the form you filled out on the day you joined? Form. Herag suddenly had a realization. Moonlight Forest seems to have little management over wizards, but there's actually a means of constraint. Yes, that form I told you about. It contains magic. Aside from identity, recording, and authentication functions, it's also a contract. If Moonlight Forest wants to take action against you, you can't escape, Larry explained. Herag was somewhat surprised, but then realized it made sense. There are no free lunches. Moonlight Forest will not provide these conditions for free, and when they need you, you must step up. However, this still left Herag with a sense of discomfort, as he didn't want his destiny to be controlled by others. So, during a war, do we, the wizard apprentices, have to follow Moonlight Forest's arrangements? Herag asked. Larry shook his finger. There are 4 ways. The first is, if you could be promoted to an official wizard, the magic's binding effect on you will lapse. At that time, you can decide whether to stay at Moonlight Forest or leave based on your own will. If you stay, you must re-sign a contract, a fair exchange of interests. The second option is to apply to leave the organization, but generally it's not feasible, except when your life is nearing its end and you want to leave. Third, if you're often outside, the forest can't manage you. Many wizards are in extremely remote places and cannot be contacted. This method doesn't work now. The forest now has entry and exit controls, and you must have a legitimate reason to go out. The last option is to be executing tasks outside, which is also one of the current legitimate reasons for going out. Herag listened carefully, pondered slightly, and asked, Mr. Larry, so it seems the most suitable for me is to take a task and then go out publicly? Larry replied, In theory, yes, but such tasks must be officially issued by Moonlight Forest, and many people scramble to take them. The duration of these tasks isn't fixed. You might have to return after just 1 or 2 months. Herag furrowed his brow. It seemed the ostensibly safe Moonlight Forest now constantly faced the risk of possibly engaging in a war. But there's one other way. Larry smiled meaningfully, staring at Herag. Herag felt a bit uneasy under his gaze and tentatively asked, What way? Become my student, Larry said slowly. Student. Herag had somewhat expected this outcome. Larry had always taken care of him, not necessarily out of being a good person, but more because of recognizing Herag's potential, something Herag had always been aware of. If he could become his student, he could surely avoid many detours. Larry smiled. How about it, Herag? Are you willing to become my student? Herag didn't rush to answer, but instead asked, What I need to pay? Larry smiled. No need to worry. I won't make you give up your soul or anything like that. In fact, the teacher-student relationship is essentially a stable interest relationship. I help you now, and if you can help me in the future, you do so. Wizards don't talk about emotions. Interests are always the most effective tool for maintaining relationships. Actually, the things I've sacrificed for you so far are worthless to me, requiring no cost at all. I originally wanted to observe a bit longer, at least until you could advance to a third-class wizard apprentice before considering taking you as a student, as only then would you have enough value. But your talent in magic potion makes me reconsider, and after deliberation, I believe you already have enough value. So, Herag, are you willing to become my student? Herag laughed. Greetings, Mr. Larry. Very well. Hold on. I'll explain the points you need to note during the advancement process. And if you encounter any special situations and how to handle them, after you complete the advancement, I'll arrange a task for you. You can then go outside Moonlight Forest to avoid the forthcoming turmoil, Larry arranged. What about you, teacher? Are you staying at Moonlight Forest? Herag asked. Herag looked at Larry, and it seemed Larry had no intention of leaving. If a war really breaks out, even an official wizard cannot avoid being dragged in. Me? Larry laughed. I'm just a logistics person. If it really comes to a fight, my knowledge of magic potions is far more useful than combat. If even I have to take the field, it means I should prepare to run away. Don't official wizards also have to sign a contract with Moonlight Forest? Herag felt that Larry didn't seem to be bound by much. That's the benefit of being a master of magic potions. The contract I signed with Moonlight Forest is different from others. Strictly speaking, we're just in an employment relationship, so I'm not that heavily constrained. Larry explained. Herag suddenly understood. I see. This is the advantage of having expertise. Seems like being specialized is appreciated everywhere. Next, I'll tell you some things to pay attention to in the promotion process. Larry continued. There's an old saying in the wizard world. No promotion process is exactly the same. It means that when wizards advance, all sorts of situations can arise, and you'll need to use the knowledge you have to adapt and manage accordingly. Of course, you're only promoting to second-class wizard apprentice, so you shouldn't encounter many difficulties. Just remember that a wizard's most powerful weapon is always knowledge, which can solve most of your problems. After returning home, Herag spent 2 days digesting the experience Larry had taught him, then took out the Dawn Potion. Shenlan, begin comprehensive monitoring of the body's state. Prompt feedback if any issues arise during the promotion process. Task has been filed. A 3D human model appeared in front of Herag, representing his current bodily state, with numerous parameters denoting his current physical condition beside it. Herag removed the wooden stopper from the Dawn Potion, and a puff of purple mist emerged, spreading outward. He tilted his head back and drank the pale purple liquid of the Dawn Potion, which tasted very bitter and slightly painful. Once the Dawn Potion entered his body, it became a surge of energy that spread throughout. Heart rate accelerating, current heart rate, 157. Toxic substances have entered the body, causing damage. Current damage degree, 3%. Stop promotion and dispel toxic substances. Do not stop, continue. Herag closed his eyes, knowing this was the effect of the potion and that he must not stop. A layer of purple flames emerged from his body. The flames had no temperature and couldn't ignite the clothes he was wearing. Current heart rate, 267. Body damage degree, 10%. Gene chain is breaking. Herag's current bodily state could be described as dire, yet he did not panic at all, remaining mentally stable. Gene chain is reorganizing. Herag, look at what this is. A woman's voice came from behind, but Herag seemed not to hear and ignored it. He ignored it, yet the voice did not cease. Instead, it became more numerous and chaotic. The odd changes, not to even look at the symbols and quadrants. Wake up. They're calling roll. Herag's strong spiritual power kept him awake, focusing only on the promotion process. Boom. After an indefinite duration, Herag suddenly felt as if his head exploded. These are wind energy particles. The red ones should be fire energy particles, and the black ones are dark energy particles. Previously, Herag could only sense the free energy particles in the surrounding space, but couldn't distinguish their attributes. But now, he could clearly perceive the attribute of each energy particle. So, which type of energy particle is suitable for me? As a first-class wizard apprentice advances to a second-class wizard apprentice, they sense one or more types of suitable energy particles for themselves. Wizard apprentices can absorb these energy particles into their bodies, continuously radiating and enhancing their constitution. Herag's physical strength would increase continually with this radiation, making his own body somewhat radiant. At the wizard apprentice stage, this radiance wouldn't significantly affect ordinary people, but having offspring with them would be difficult. Meanwhile, wizard apprentices, when using magic of the same attribute, will experience enhanced casting speed and spell strength. This does not mean other spells can't be learned. Rather, magic from the particular attribute becomes much stronger. Herag took a deep breath, commenced meditation anew, and opened his hands to absorb the energy particles surrounding his body. He no longer absorbed all energy particles indiscriminately, as he'd done previously, instead letting them congregate on his body's surface. Those harmonizing with him automatically entered his body, those that didn't floated on the surface. Turns out they're dark energy particles. Herag discovered the one attribute he attuned to was the dark energy attribute particles. This is a type of advanced energy particle, subdivided into many subtypes such as negative energy particles, shadow energy particles, all belonging to the dark energy class. Looks like I will need to specialize in dark energy spells henceforth. Wizard apprentices can achieve greater effectiveness by specializing in the direction they naturally attune to. So many choose to pursue specialization. Particularly upon reaching the stage of becoming a third-class wizard apprentice, it becomes preparation for advancing to official wizard, demanding more specialization. Herag's previously met rock seemed to be doing the same, specializing in earth element magic, as the magic he utilized was primarily earth-based. Current heart rate, 97. Body is gradually recovering. Herag felt his physical state starting to stabilize. Shenlan, check current bodily state. Herag Merlin, power 3.0, agility 3.1, constitution 4.8, spirit 11.0, magic power 40%. Herag nodded. Promotion succeeded, just as Mr. Larry said. With my current spiritual power, the advancement to second-class wizard apprentice should be relatively effortless. Dark energy shield. He cast a shield on himself to examine the post-promotion effects. Shenlan, how does the current dark energy shield compare to before in strength? After calculation, because most of the magic in this spell was composed of dark energy particles, shield strength increased by 63%, magic power consumption decreased by 39%. Herag contemplated. No wonder second-class wizard apprentices start choosing specialization. This strength enhancement is significant. Spending 100% effort yields 150% return. Having completed the promotion, he didn't indulge in jubilance, but sat steadily down to complete meditation. In his mind, there were 6 stars, and he needed to complete meditation on 4 more stars to advance to third-class wizard apprentice. Herag searched within the starry sky briefly, chose a star, and began meditating. Without the aid of meteor grass, the meditation speed is considerably slower. Herag had been utilizing meteor grass assistance for some time, and transitioning back was challenging given the slow meditation speed. Meteor grass was no longer useful for him at this stage, thus he needed to think of other ways to speed up meditation thereafter. After Herag finished his meditation, he went downstairs to take a hot shower. There was a strong smell of medicine all over his body. Northern Forest region. After Herag went out, he clearly felt that the atmosphere was different from usual, and the faces of the wizards passing by were somewhat serious. He also saw many people who were already injured. When passing by the flea market, Herag noticed that it was much quieter than usual. At this time, there should be more and more frequent transactions. It seems that many people have already taken tasks to flee Moonlight Forest. Herag was focused on preparing for his promotion during this time and paid relatively little attention to the movements in the forest. After arriving in town, he found that the crowd was significantly smaller than usual. The originally bustling gathering place now had only small groups of people, and they all looked worried, seemingly unable to find a way to weather the storm. The tasks allowing people to leave the forest are probably gone now, and even if there are any, they would be snatched up immediately, and those tasks are not enough to go around. Seeing these scenes, Herag quickened his pace, feeling the need to leave here as soon as possible. Otherwise, even with Mr. Larry's help, he might not be able to get out, as, in the face of the war machine, many things are very fragile. Teacher, I successfully got promoted. Herag reported his situation. Larry was as usual, poured him a cup of coffee, and then poured one for himself as well. Add the sugar yourself. Larry pushed the coffee through the air in front of Herag. Your spiritual power is very stable, and the quality of your magic power is also very high. So I determined that there is no problem in your promotion to a second-class wizard apprentice. I'm not surprised by that. Larry then, with a serious expression, said, Now, to the main topic, pack up and get ready to leave in the next 2 days. Malcolm, that lunatic, captured 100 pregnant women, presumably preparing to perform some evil, powerful spell. Moonlight Forest has already reported this to Augustus Academy. Malcolm's actions severely violate the basic principles of the wizard organizations on the Kala continent, which is to not allow the mass slaughter of ordinary people. Herag asked, if Malcolm indeed slaughtered these 100 ordinary people, what punishment would he face? Sigh, it would just be some financial penalties. Larry sighed. This is how it is with official wizards, especially powerful ones. Rules barely restrain them anymore. The ordinary people on the Kala continent are a vital source of fresh blood for wizard organizations, and the wizards' lives actually rely on the production materials produced by ordinary people, so there's always been a rule against mass slaughter. Malcolm's actions happened to draw the attention of various wizard organizations, but not to the extent that they felt compelled to intervene and stop him. This will only result in Malcolm facing some financial consequences. Larry continued, I predict that when Malcolm's spell takes form, that will be the time when Moonlight Forest and Green Cottage fully go to war. So, you need to leave here as soon as possible. Herag nodded. Understood, but where should I go? This was a question Herag had been pondering these days. With the Kala continent being so vast, where would be a better place to go? I recommend you go to the Doris Kingdom on the west coast, where the regime is stable, far away from major wizard organizations. You can pass this period relatively peacefully. The only downside is the scarcity of magic potion materials there. But that's the case everywhere, as places rich in magic potion materials aren't far from wizard organizations. And the task I'm giving you is to go to the Doris Kingdom and find a magic potion material called moonstone grass. Larry pulled out a map, pointing to a large country on the west coast as he introduced it. I remember you have a space ring, right? I prepared a batch of magic potion materials for you, enough to last you a while. If you lack any basic magic potions, you can self-brew with these materials and practice a bit. Larry turned and walked to a room by the side, opening the door. He beckoned to Herag. Come and have a look. Herag followed over, and looking into the room by the door, so many. The room was full of magic potion materials, all neatly categorized and placed. These are materials for basic types of magic potions, not valuable. I had a premonition that a war might erupt, so I pre-ordered a lot of magic potion materials. Now many magic potion materials in Moonlight Forest Magic Pharmacy are being sold in limited quantities. Larry explained. Herag nodded, understanding that if war broke out, something like magic potion materials would definitely be centrally managed and controlled by Moonlight Forest officials, and the amounts wizard apprentices could buy probably wouldn't suffice for themselves. Thank you, teacher. Herag solemnly bowed to express his gratitude, though Larry made it seem simple. This gift was a generous one, worth an unknown amount of magic stones. Larry chuckled. This is nothing. All right, store them in your space ring, go back and pack. And when you're ready, come find me. I'll take you out. Herag chuckled hearing this. He was brought back by Larry, and now to escape the turmoil, he needed to be taken out by him again, forming a cycle. Teacher, I'll head back now. After leaving Larry's house, Herag hadn't walked far when he suddenly met Bessie on the street. She looked as though she was also heading to see Larry. Bessie, Herag greeted her. Bessie seemed a bit flustered, her gaze avoiding Herag's eyes. She lowered her head and said, "Herag, congratulations on being promoted to a third-class wizard apprentice." Herag congratulated her. He had heard before that Bessie had been successfully promoted, but had not encountered her until now, only sending messages over the talisman stone. "Thank you." Bessie seemed to have something on her mind and didn't say much more, continuing to walk with her head lowered. Herag reflected on Bessie's demeanor, feeling something was off. After thinking for a bit, he suddenly realized what was wrong. Why is Bessie dressed so alluringly? Bessie was wearing a pair of black silk stockings with suspenders. Her legs were already long, and the outfit made them even more enticing. More importantly, when Herag brushed past her, he noticed that under Bessie's robe, she was only wearing a small XX. Since knowing Bessie, she had always dressed very conservatively, always wearing long pants and never dressing so seductively. Herag felt there might be some gossip here, but shook his head, continuing on his way, as it had nothing to do with him. After purchasing some items hard to find outside, he returned home and began sorting out the things he needed to take. With so many magic potion materials now piled up in his space ring, not many large items could be taken, so he decided to bring along those spell model books. After finishing up, Herag picked up a quill pen and wrote a letter to Lillian, informing her that he would be leaving Moonlight Forest for a while and might not be contactable for a short period due to certain circumstances. "I also wonder if I can still send out this letter." Herag felt the letter should still be able to be sent out, as Moonlight Forest had only implemented entry and exit controls. As long as there was a legitimate reason, people could still go out, so the transmission of letters should still be normal. The next day, Herag arrived at Larry's house. He was wearing light armor, with a long sword at his waist, looking nothing like a wizard. This light armor was bought for 7 magic stones from the flea market. It's harder than regular armor and has some enchantments that enhance its defense against magic. Herag planned to act as a knight after going out. Wearing a wizard robe would be too conspicuous in the ordinary world. "Ready?" Larry asked. Herag nodded slightly. "Follow me." Larry led Herag upstairs. Herag had only been to the 4th floor before, never above that, so he didn't know what was up there. Following Larry all the way up, Herag counted silently in his heart. When they reached the 11th floor, the two stopped. This floor was a parlor-like guest room, spacious with sofas placed all around. Inside, there was a fireplace, next to which a wall of firewood was neatly stacked. "Why come here to go out?" Herag was a bit puzzled about leaving the Moonlight Forest by coming upstairs. Larry smiled and explained, "Do you want to leave from the east or south road? If you want to, I won't stop you. Just be prepared for a fight once you're outside." "It seems the situation is more serious than I thought." Herag's expression was grave, understanding Larry's implication. Now the outskirts of the Moonlight Forest were unsafe, and he might encounter people from the Green Cottage once he went out. "So, we need a different, safer way out, the Flu Network," Larry said, walking towards the fireplace. Flu Network. It was the first time Herag heard the term. Larry explained, "It's normal that you don't know, as there are only 3 fireplaces in the entire Moonlight Forest connected to the Flu Network. The so-called Flu Network is when many wizards' fireplaces are connected to the Flu Network. By using flu powder and saying the name of the place you want to go, you can arrive there." Herag pondered, "Isn't that dangerous?" He imagined a scenario where someone suddenly emerged from one's fireplace at home. That's why wizards who dare to connect to the Flu Network have a certain level of power. If in the future you find yourself arriving at the wrong place through the Flu Network, be very careful. The Flu Network here has been registered in the Moonlight Forest, and this journey via the Flu Network has been pre-approved by the forest. Larry took a wooden box from above the fireplace. He opened the box to reveal a green powder inside. To use it, grab a handful of flu powder, stand inside the fireplace, say the name of the place you want to go, then throw the flu powder down. Your destination is called the Violet Cottage, an abandoned wooden house located in the southern Kanakani Kingdom, within a forest. After you arrive there, head south for 2 days to reach Violet City. Go further west, and you can get to the Doors Kingdom. Larry described the route he had planned for Herag. "It's simple, go ahead." Larry patted Herag on the shoulder, indicating for him to move towards the fireplace. Herag stood in the fireplace, checking to see if he had forgotten anything. Larry extended the box of flu powder towards him, and Herag grabbed a handful. It felt no different from ordinary sand. Remember, it's Violet Cottage. Larry emphasized one last time. Herag nodded, took a deep breath, and said, "Violet Cottage." He immediately threw the flu powder downward, and instantly, a burst of green flames enveloped Herag's body. In the blink of an eye, Herag vanished from the spot. Herag felt a sudden darkness, and then it seemed as if his head and feet were reversed as he traversed downward through a black tunnel. After a while, a white opening appeared ahead. Boom! Herag felt himself crash into a pile of clutter, causing a loud crashing sound and the sound of a wooden shelf falling to the ground. He opened his eyes and found himself inside a shabby wooden house, the floor filled with broken sofas, broken chairs, splintered wood, and other debris. The room was full of dust, seemingly stirred up by his recent crash. He glanced back and saw a large fireplace behind him, realizing he must have come from there. Cough, cough. The thick dust made Herag cough incessantly. Dark energy shield. Herag cast a shield on himself, then squeezed through the clutter, forcing a path out. With a shield enveloping him, there was no need to worry about getting scratched. After squeezing out, Herag found himself on the first floor of the wooden house. The stairs leading to the second floor had decayed and broken, with many steps already shattered. He scanned his surroundings and found the location of the main door, trying to twist it open. Carelessly, he twisted off the doorknob, feeling a bit speechless. How long has this house been uninhabited? He tried pushing the door, finding it entirely immobile, noticing the lock had rusted shut. Bam! Herag kicked the door open, stirring up another cloud of dust. He dashed out rapidly, feeling the cold sensation on his face, and saw the sky overcast with imminent rain. Looking around, he saw endless wilderness. The entire center of this wilderness was the Violet Cottage, surrounded by forest at its edges. Herag took out a map and confirmed that this was indeed the place Larry had mentioned. The position of the stars. Herag sensed the position of the stars, finding the south and starting his journey. According to Larry's instructions, he needed to walk for 2 days to get out, so he had to hurry. After spending 10 minutes crossing the wilderness, he entered the forest. While trekking through the forest, droplets fell occasionally, and Herag soon found himself wet. Using magic power to repel the rain was too extravagant. Traversing an unfamiliar forest, he dared not waste magic power casually. Herag would take out his map every so often to mark his position, adjusting his direction and route. Time to find a place to camp. Herag glanced at the sky, realizing it was almost dusk. He found a sheltered spot at the foot of a mountain, with dense trees nearby, sheltering most of the rain. Herag took out a tent from his space ring, tossed it on the ground, and the tent promptly stood up. He only needed to manually secure a few corners. It's been a long time since I last hunted. Herag could sense many animal traces in the forest, all common animals. He pulled out a fine steel bow, something he hadn't used in a long time, yet he had kept it, and now it came in handy. Herag took his bow and arrow into the forest, and soon he discovered a wild rabbit. He bent his bow and nocked an arrow, aiming at the rabbit, and in the next second, the rabbit's head was pierced through. Now, he no longer needed Shenlan's assistance to easily hit such small animals. Herag picked up the wild rabbit and found a small stream, where he took out a dagger and skillfully skinned and gutted it, quickly preparing a piece of juicy rabbit meat. At night, A dense white mist arose in the forest, and the rain intensified. Herag pulled out a rain tar from his space ring and set up a makeshift shelter under a tree, also collecting some dry wood, wild vegetables, and mushrooms nearby. He stacked the dry wood he picked up, snapped his fingers, and the pile of wood caught fire. This was a simple use of fire elemental energy particles. Since advancing to a second-class wizard apprentice, Herag could manipulate these various types of energy particles to perform some basic magic. The most commonly used was igniting with fire elemental energy particles. This simple absorption of a bit of fire elemental energy particles naturally wouldn't have any destructive power, but it was just right for everyday life. Besides that, there were plant energy particles which could accelerate wound recovery, and these plant energy particles were ubiquitous in the forest. Herag took out a wooden stick, skewered the rabbit, and roasted it over the fire, taking oil and spices from his bag. He used a brush to coat the rabbit meat layer by layer with oil, slowly grilling it, as the aroma gradually emerged, dispersing in the forest. Raindrops drummed on the shelter, making a ticking sound, and occasional small crackles came from the campfire. Herag closed his eyes slightly, occasionally turning to rabbit. Everything seemed so peaceful and serene. The tranquil, rainy night in the forest made Herag feel sleepy. But now he couldn't sleep because there were unexpected visitors. Far away, two people were approaching, and Herag listened to their footsteps drawing nearer. When the two came closer, the yellow firelight illuminated their faces. One was a middle-aged man with a big beard, wearing armor and holding a long sword in his hand, which still bore bloodstains. He looked at Herag with a solemn expression. Beside the middle-aged knight was a teenager about 16 or 17 years old, with golden hair and luxurious clothes, clearly a noble. "Hello, traveler. I am Kieran Banks from the Dasoni territory, and this is Josh Banks, the second son of the Banks family. We wonder if we could borrow some fire, if my young master is cold." The middle-aged knight, Kieran, spoke sincerely, even with a hint of supplication. Herag squinted slightly at them. "There's space. Have a seat." Kieran Banks, Power 4.2, Agility 3.2, Constitution 3.9, full of unknown energy. Another great night. Herag thought of Baron Buck, oddly nostalgic. Kieran and his young master cautiously approached, their movements restrained, seemingly afraid of being misunderstood by Herag. After they sat down by the fire, Josh shivered near the flames, looking as though he'd been cold for a long time. Sizzle. The rabbit was almost done, sizzling with oil, causing sparks to fly as it dripped into the fire. Herag sat up, grasped a rabbit leg in one hand, and pulled out a dagger with the other, beginning to carve the leg. Herag felt the heat, struggled a bit to tear off the rabbit leg, then took a big bite. The rabbit meat was juicy and melted in the mouth, with a unique roasted aroma, leaving an endless aftertaste. Herag swallowed the piece of meat with satisfaction, feeling very warm. A pot hung beside the rabbit, simmering wild vegetable and mushroom soup. These wild vegetables and mushrooms were confirmed safe by Shenlan's database. After finishing the rabbit leg in a few bites, Herag lifted the lid off the pot, releasing a burst of white steam and fragrance. He took a bowl and spoon out of his space ring, served himself a bowl of soup, and blew on it, but it was still too hot to drink. Kieran's expression became more serious upon seeing him retrieve items out of thin air, looking at Herag with increased reverence. Grumble. The sound of his stomach growling interrupted, and Herag looked up, seeing it was the young noble Josh. He chuckled, ignored him, and continued blowing on his hot soup. "Sir, might we purchase some food from you? We're willing to pay," Kieran requested. Recognizing Herag as a wizard, Kieran was cautious with his words and actions, fearing to offend him. Herag looked up and said, "A rabbit is not enough for me alone, so I'm not going to sell it to you. Aren't you a great knight, capable of hunting?" Kieran saw that Herag accurately discerned his strength and showed no fear, confirming Herag's identity even more. He said somewhat ashamedly, "I hadn't considered it. Too focused on fleeing, I forgot to catch some game. Now it's raining, and I can't take my master hunting at night in the rain. Uncle Kieran, it's not your fault. You've done well protecting me. Skipping a meal or two is fine. We'll find food tomorrow morning. Josh tried to comfort Kieran. Here, 10 gold coins, do you want it? Herag pulled out a thick biscuit from his space ring. 10 gold coins. Josh looked at the ordinary biscuit, then back at Herag, and immediately replied, No, I'll give you 10,000 gold coins. Herag laughed. 10,000 gold coins? Can you carry that much? Josh explained, Once I return to the Tassoni territory, I'll present 10,000 gold coins to you, without missing a penny. Reading Kieran's expression and actions, Josh quickly realized this person was unusual, prompting him to think of recruiting him. I give you biscuits, and you give me promises? Herag laughed. Unexpectedly, Josh grew a bit emotional, kneeling on one knee in the muddy ground, with his right hand over his heart. I swear on the Banks family's honor, if we return to Markfield City in the Tassoni territory, I'll award 10,000 gold coins to you. My name is Herag Merlin. 10,000 gold coins probably isn't just for biscuits. You want me to help solve the trouble behind you? Sorry, I don't like trouble. Herag shook his head, uninterested in meddling in noble power struggles. Mr. Herag, there's a misunderstanding. I have no intention of using you. You only need to ensure our safe arrival at Markfield City. Josh sincerely pleaded. Markfield City? It so happens it's on my way. If 10,000 gold coins is just for escorting you, there's no reason not to earn it. You can lead the way tomorrow. Herag recalled the map, realizing he was headed there anyway, and with these two, perhaps some matters might even become more convenient. Thank you, Mr. Herag. Josh was overjoyed. I'm just doing my job for money. Escorting for a while and getting 10,000 gold coins. Where else to find such good deals? Just hope you won't renege, or the consequences could be severe. Herag waved his hand. Rest assured, sir, I will not break my promise, Josh replied sincerely. After eating and drinking his fill, Herag crawled into his tent to sleep. Kieran used leaves to make a bowl for Josh, then serve him a bowl of soup from the pot. This was deliberately left by Herag, in exchange for helping him wash the pot, as he was too lazy to do it himself. Josh didn't mind drinking the leftover soup from Herag. He took a sip and then handed the leaf-made bowl over. Uncle Kieran, you have some too. He then broke a biscuit in half, and also gave half to Kieran. Kieran hesitated for a moment, but didn't refuse. He hadn't eaten for 2 days either, and was indeed very hungry. Considering there would be battles later on, he decided to eat. Herag lay in the tent, clearly watching the scene outside. He wasn't sleeping, but rather meditating while lying down. Now, without the aid of meteor grass, he had to work harder on the meditation method. The next morning, the rain stopped, but the fog became thicker. Kieran was resting against a tree with his eyes closed, while Josh leaned on him asleep, covered with Kieran's cloak. Herag made no attempt to conceal the noise of waking up. Kieran slowly opened his eyes, first confirming Josh's condition, and feeling relieved once he ensured there was nothing wrong. With a wave of Herag's hand, the tent, rain cover, and other items on the ground were collected into the space ring. He turned to the pair under the tree and said, I'm getting ready to set off. All right. Kieran and Josh stood up obediently, following behind Herag. Herag took out a map to check the direction before setting off. Tell me about your situation, Herag casually said while walking ahead. He had to find out what trouble these two encountered and what the situation was to be prepared. I'm the second son of Count Remy of Tassoni territory. A few days ago, Uncle Kieran and I went to the countryside to check on the crops. Everything was going smoothly, but on the way back, we were ambushed. Those people were obviously prepared and even had crossbows. Uncle Kieran protected me, and we fought our way out, but all the other guards were killed. Josh's tone was a bit sorrowful, seemingly angry about the guards' deaths. Do you know who did it? Herag asked offhandedly. Josh took a deep breath. Who else could it be? It must be Lucci, my elder brother. He's afraid I'll fight for his inheritance. And there's been no shortage of conflict between us over the years. Now, with father getting weaker by the day, he's grown even more anxious. Oh, Herag nodded expressionlessly. There's nothing new under the sun, just the same old power struggle drama. Are there pursuers behind? This isn't considered the outskirts of the forest, Herag continued to ask. They'd still need at least a day's journey from this location to leave the forest. Kieran replied, there are people from the Thief Guild, an assassin at Great Knight level. I'm not confident I can protect young Master Josh under his hands, so we had to flee. Understood. I've already spotted him. He's watching us. Herag glanced southeast and said, What? Kieran immediately became tense. An assassination by a Great Knight level assassin. Even he couldn't say he could defend it 100%, let alone young Master Josh, who didn't have Knight level strength. What are you afraid of? Let's go. We have a journey to make, Herag said nonchalantly, looking at the two standing nervously and looking around, slightly exasperated. Oh, okay. Kieran realized where they were. There was a powerful wizard here, so he didn't need to worry too much. The moment he saw Herag, he sensed that familiar yet mysterious aura. Great Knights don't possess magic power, but they have some sensing ability towards it. The aura on Herag was very familiar to him, as he had encountered powerful wizards with the same aura before. In the faraway forest, a bald man shivered at Herag's gaze. How did he spot me? Robert was baffled. He was a Great Knight-level assassin, the ace of the Thief Guild. He always had confidence in his concealment skills. Even opponents of the same level as a Great Knight would find it hard to see through his invisibility. But now, from over 200 meters away, that young man had instantly seen his position. How is this possible? Robert felt as though he'd seen a ghost. Most importantly, he didn't dare to make a move. From Herag's casual glance, he felt a fear emanating from the depths of his soul. His years of experience on the edge of life and death told him that if he rashly approached that man, he would certainly die. As an exceptional thief, Robert had always trusted his intuition. Can't do this job now. A pity for all those gold coins, Robert sighed, looking pained. Thinking about all those gold coins slipping away pained his heart. But pain or not, Robert made up his mind to abandon the mission, at least until that young man parted from the master-servant duo Josh. Then he would make a move. All these years, he survived by relying on his keen intuition and enough caution, with a very sharp sense of death. Given up, from Shenlan's detection, it seemed the person behind them had left and wasn't planning on continuing to pursue them. The more Robert thought about it, the more uneasy he became. The fear in his heart grew stronger the longer he tailed Herag, prompting him to decisively retreat, even abandoning continued tracking to observe the situation. That's some trouble off my back. Herag was indifferent, continuing onward. He currently had the physical abilities comparable to a Great Knight level expert, not to mention various magic aids. These ordinary Knight level or Great Knight level individuals were hard-pressed to pose any threat to him. Herag didn't mention that the assassin had already left, so Kieran kept his spiritual power highly focused all the way, constantly paying attention to the surroundings. Herag couldn't be bothered to remind him. More people on lookout is a good thing after all. The trio traveled until dusk, where they could see the plains at the base of the mountains from a distance. Mr. Herag, let's rest in the forest tonight. The plains area is too open, Kieran suggested. Herag nodded in agreement with his suggestion. Kieran's meaning was clear. If there's an ambush, descending would make them targets with no room for maneuver. In the forest, the terrain is complex, and even if there are enemies lying in wait, there's room to maneuver. A Great Knight level expert in the forest at night could easily handle dozens of people alone, not to mention with Herag present. The peaceful night quickly passed without the imagined night attack. After the three of them exited the forest, they walked for 2 hours before finally reaching a small town. As soon as Josh arrived here, he instantly exuded the air of a superior. He found the head of the town and arranged a carriage for the three of them. There were originally a dozen sturdy militiamen, but their combat capabilities were worthless to them and were thus declined. We're about to reach Markfell City soon. It's the largest city in the Tassoni territory and also where the main members of the Tassoni family reside. Josh lifted the curtain, revealing the scenery outside, and introduced the local customs to Herag. Herag wasn't interested in these, and blandly said, "I'm only concerned if my 10,000 gold coins will be fulfilled, Master Josh." "You're joking, Mr. Herag. There won't be any shortfall in your payment. This amount is trivial for me and can be easily produced." Josh felt uneasy when he heard the address Master Josh. Good, it better be so. Herag closed his eyes and continued to rest. Markfell City was indeed very large. From a distance, you could already see the tall city walls. The city gate was also very magnificent, with a giant domed gate bustling with people and carriages. The guards at the city gate were clad in full armor, with the Tassoni family's emblem, a totem of an eagle, printed on their armor. The guards looked at the carriage from afar, with some uncertainty in their gaze. When the carriage gradually approached, the guards recognized Josh and hurried to call people over. "It's Master Josh. Master Josh has returned." Upon learning the news of Josh's return, dozens of guards were immediately deployed to escort Josh and the others back to the Tassoni family's castle. The Tassoni family's castle was located at the northernmost part of the city, with an expanse of buildings that, from a distance, made one think it was the king's palace complex. The three had already switched to a more refined and robust carriage, surrounded by layers of guarded soldiers. "These are all my personally trained loyalists," Josh said with some pride, introducing his guards to Herag. The group stopped in front of the castle, where someone was already waiting at the castle gate. A man, appearing to be around 30, with a small mustache, hurried over anxiously, looking concernedly at Josh as he got off the carriage. "Oh, Josh, thank the gods. You're back safe." Josh chuckled dismissively. "Lucci, why do I feel you're disappointed that I returned safely?" Lucci was a burly man, but now appeared very gentle, smiling. "My dear brother, what nonsense are you talking about? After learning about your ambush and disappearance, I couldn't eat or drink for a while and mobilized various powers to search for your whereabouts. Fortunately, you returned safely, so Father can also be at ease." Josh seemed to dislike his demeanor, frowning as he asked, "How is Father?" Lucci hesitated, sighing, "Not great. You should go see him." Josh nodded and turned to Kieran. "Uncle Kieran, please take Mr. Herag to rest and give him the 10,000 gold coins reward." "Mr. Herag, since I just got back, I need to see my father first. I truly apologize." He slightly bowed apologetically to Herag. Herag nodded. "It's fine." Kieran walked in front, bowing and gesturing. "This way, Mr. Herag." "Who is this?" Lucci curiously looked at Herag, his eyes flickering with a peculiar light. Kieran said expressionlessly, "Master Lucci, this is Master Josh's esteemed guest. You needn't know." "I needn't know? I am the eldest son of the Tassoni family, Uncle Kieran. Since he's Josh's esteemed guest, he's my esteemed guest too. Hello, Mr. Herag. I'm Lucci Banks. If you hear any bad rumors about me, please don't take them to heart and refrain from knowing me through others' words." Ignoring Kieran, Lucci stepped in front of Herag, introducing himself respectfully and courteously. "Hello, Herag Merlin." Herag nodded, casually responding, "Mr. Herag, if you don't mind, how about I show you around this castle?" Lucci asked expectantly. Herag smiled. "I won't be staying here long, and I have no interest in your Tassoni family's matters, so you needn't bother." Lucci burst into hearty laughter, cheerfully saying, "Mr. Herag is quite interesting. It's all the more reason for me to entertain you well as the host." Kieran blocked him. "Master Lucci, let me handle it." Lucci smiled insincerely. "Since Uncle Kieran insists, I won't say more." He apologetically turned to Herag. I hope Mr. Herag won't find it awkward. My brother has been possessive since childhood. Always worried I'll take his things, ha ha ha. Kieran ignored the sarcasm in his words, turning respectfully to Herag. Please follow me, Mr. Herag. As Herag passed by Lucci, he offered Herag a helpless smile. Could Mr. Herag stay overnight, allowing us, the Banks family, to express our gratitude? Kieran inquired. Of course. Herag wasn't in a hurry to travel. His current purpose was to understand the local customs while traveling. Larry had tasked him to find moonstone grass in the Doors Kingdom. There was no time limit on this task, allowing him to return whenever he wanted. Kieran led Herag to a grand palace, ornately decorated inside. Upon entering, a gigantic painting, standing 40 to 50 meters tall, of a pot-bellied middle-aged man, caught their eye. This is Count Huin, the biological father of Masters Josh and Lucci, Kieran introduced. Herag asked with interest, the two brothers, are they born from different mothers? Yes, Kieran replied concisely. Herag nodded without further comment. After glancing at the painting, he continued following Kieran forward. The decorations inside could only be described as luxurious, and Herag noticed many of the wall carvings were made of gold and gems. Picking off a random gem could be worth thousands of gold coins. This Count's family is indeed too wealthy. No wonder the two brothers fight tooth and nail. The palace itself showcased the tremendous wealth of the Banks family, far beyond ordinary imagination. Mr. Herag can stay here tonight. All the guards and servants are at your service. No one will disturb you. Kieran led Herag to a giant door. Kieran exerted himself, and the door slowly opened, revealing a vast space behind it. Herag estimated that the room behind the door was about 500 or 600 square meters. Inside, there was a large bed that could easily accommodate 6 or 7 people. Meanwhile, heavy footsteps could be heard outside the door as 2 guards struggled to carry in a golden treasure chest. The guards brought the chest into the room and placed it in front of Herag and Kieran. You may leave, Kieran instructed. The 2 guards bowed their heads and quickly exited, never once lifting their eyes to look at Herag. This is the 10,000 gold coins promised by Master Josh. Mr. Herag, please check it. Kieran opened the golden chest, revealing a full box of shimmering gold coins. Herag smiled and said, not bad. He beckoned with his hand and took the entire box. This box exceeded 10,000 gold coins, and just the box itself was quite valuable. Mr. Herag, you may rest here for a moment. If you'd like to go for a stroll, you can call upon the servant by the door. There will be a grand banquet tonight, Kieran continued. Herag, not being polite, turned and laid down on the soft, large bed. All right, Kieran respectfully retreated, gently closing the door and carefully instructing the 2 maids at the door. The Violet Kingdom truly deserves its title as the largest kingdom in the south. Even a count here is so wealthy, Herag remarked. On the map, Tassoni territory seemed small, and Herag never expected the lord here to be so wealthy. Herag stayed in the room without wandering around, planning his subsequent route before starting to meditate. Until nightfall, a maid came and knocked on the door. Mr. Herag, it's time to attend the banquet. The 2 maids at the door were very young and dressed revealingly, causing Herag to look twice at the expanse of white skin. Lead the way, Herag said softly, casually touching a few areas. The two maids just lowered their heads and smiled without any resistance. After Herag stopped, the two maids led the way, guiding Herag through palace after palace. Sometimes, having such a big house isn't a good thing. It takes half an hour just to reach the dining hall. Herag complained somewhat speechlessly. Though the castle was large, there weren't many people. On his way, Herag mainly saw guards and servants. The banquet was held in the largest palace, and there weren't many attendees. Herag roughly counted, finding only over 60 people excluding servants and guards, which was quite few for an aristocratic banquet. Herag finally saw the person from the giant painting, Count Huin Banks, who was seated at the head of the long table, with his sons Josh and Lucci on either side, followed by other children and relatives. "Mr. Herag," Josh exclaimed excitedly upon seeing Herag. He had changed into an extravagant suit for the banquet, looking noticeably bulkier. Count Huin turned to look at Herag after hearing this, rising and smiling. "Thank you, Mr. Herag, for saving my son. The Banks family will forever remember your kindness." Herag was seated below the main seat, and the banquet was quiet as everyone ate in silence. After a simple meal, the usual dance session followed, but Herag wasn't particularly interested. Count Huin and his sons came over with drinks again to express their gratitude. "Thank you, Mr. Herag." Herag clinked glasses with them, his nose twitching slightly, as if sensing something. After finishing his drink, he asked, "Is Count Huin injured?" Josh said excitedly, 2 months ago, my father was assassinated. Though the assassin failed, my father was left with serious injuries that haven't healed." "Mr. Herag, do you have a way?" "I'm not sure if there's a way, but I do smell something familiar." Herag sniffed again, detecting the scent of dark energy particles. Josh, growing more excited, promptly said to Count Huin, "Father, why not let Mr. Herag take a look? The crowd here is too large and nosy. Let's discuss this elsewhere." Count Huin considered for a moment and nodded in agreement, and they moved to a quieter room next door. Lucci followed, seemingly also worried about his father's injuries. "Great night." Kieran stood guard at the door, apparently determined not to let anyone else in. Herag pulled up a chair and sat down, slowly savoring the red wine in his glass. He had heard of this wine before. It was far beyond his means to afford. "Mr. Herag, can you save my father?" Josh asked eagerly. Herag set down his glass. "I can't say if I can save him until I see what the injury is like." "Father." Josh looked at his father with an inquiring glance. Count Huin hesitated, laboriously removing his outer clothing. After a great effort, he removed 2 layers to reveal the injury on his waist. There was a black wound there. Although medicine had been applied to the wound's surface, it still exuded a faint, rotten smell. "I didn't expect the Count's injury to be this severe." Herag moved closer to observe, confirming that it was caused by demonized items. The wound was entangled with dark energy particles, preventing it from healing, rendering ordinary medicine ineffective. Count Huin smiled bitterly. "I wasn't long for this world anyway." A few days ago, Josh had disappeared. Now that Josh has returned safely, I can leave in peace. "Father." Josh clutched Huin's clothing tightly. Herag curiously said, "Leave? It's just a minor injury." "A minor injury?" "Mr. Herag, do you really have a solution?" The entire Huin family looked at him in astonishment. They had sought countless renowned doctors, none of whom could do anything for Count Huin's injuries. They even considered seeking legendary mystics, but lacked the means to contact them. How could an ordinary mystic be specially called to treat a minor count? "I can treat it. What are you willing to pay?" "I charge a lot for my services." The Banks family was wealthy, and Herag wouldn't miss this chance to make a fortune. He had no qualms about taking money from such aristocrats. Count Huin pondered for a while. It wasn't that he was stingy. He was contemplating what would be most suitable to offer. He already knew Herag was a legendary mystic, so he needed to offer something that would satisfy him. But what could possibly satisfy a wizard? Simple money? Wizards don't seem to lack money, and carrying such a large amount is inconvenient. Beauties? That's worthless. Count Huin thought for a while, continuously shaking his head, finally saying, "Mr. Herag, if you can heal me, the bank's family treasury will be open to you, and you may choose any 3 treasures you like." Treasure vault, Herag asked with some interest. "Does your treasure vault have any good items?" Of course. Baron Huon was quite proud, having great confidence in his own treasure vault. Herag mused. "Then, I hope your treasure vault can satisfy me." His words were rather blunt. Though wizards couldn't slaughter regular folk en masse, killing a few was still overlooked. Count Huon nodded nervously, but then, thinking of the numerous treasures in the vault, gained some confidence. It should satisfy him, he thought. Herag extended his hand, placing it above Count Huon's wound. The dark energy particles in the wound began to disperse, and Herag slowly absorbed these energy particles. Huon felt an odd sensation. The wound seemed a little better, less itchy and painful. Since Herag was paid for his services, he didn't settle for half measures, meticulously absorbing all the dark energy particles from the wound, leaving none behind. Josh and the others stood quietly to the side, observing the process of Herag treating Count Huon's injuries. Though they didn't understand what was being done, they could see the blackness on the wound gradually reducing. They had always assumed the black stuff to be toxins and had never figured out what it was, unable to eradicate it. Half an hour later, Herag withdrew his hand. "The Count's wound is now fine. Proceed with normal treatment for external injuries." Huon's wound showed no trace of blackness, revealing red flesh with some blood seeping out. The castle's doctor quickly arrived to reapply medication and bandage Count Huon's wound. Even though Herag had some white sage healing potion, it was too wasteful to use on a noble like this. After the doctor finished treating the wound, Count Huon heaved a sigh of relief, visibly looking better and with a bit more color in his face. Herag held a certain admiration for Count Huon, considering he was just an ordinary person. The dark energy particles were no boon to ordinary people. Having such stuff in the wound was indeed torturous. Herag had just caught a whiff of anesthesia from the wound, likely used for pain relief. Huon, leaning back in his chair, exhaled comfortably and, after a sigh, said, "Thanks to Mr. Herag, I feel much better. Now it's time for me to fulfill my promise." He stood up. With great might, Kieran immediately stepping forward to support him. "Mr. Herag, this way, please." Huon led the way. Josh and Lucci sensibly did not follow, as the treasure vault seemed not an area they could casually enter. Huon personally led Herag all the way down to the 3rd basement level of the castle. In front of a massive, heavy iron door stood 2 night level guards, both clad in heavy full-body armor. Huon pulled out a wooden box from his pocket, opening it to reveal a bronze key inside. He took the key to the iron door, inserted it, and gently twisted. Sounds of countless mechanical gears turning came from behind the door. Click! With a light sound, the door slowly opened on its own, revealing the passageway beyond. "You stand guard here, let no one inside," Huon instructed the 2 night level guards. He turned to Herag, saying, "Mr. Herag, please." Beyond the door stretched a long passageway, lit by oil lamps. Herag followed behind, Huon for a distance, coming to another door. This door was smaller, yet made of some metal too, appearing very sturdy. Huon reached into his shirt, and only then did Herag notice the small key hanging from his neck. Huon used this key to open the smaller door. As soon as the door opened, Herag was greeted by a sight of golden splendor. Entering the treasure vault, Herag was stupefied. The enormous storeroom was filled with gold, jewelry, and numerous antique vases, paintings, and the like. Herag even spotted a colossal coral reef. At this moment, Huan was spirited, introducing the treasures to Herag enthusiastically. These are the treasures accumulated by the Banks family over the years. There are many items even I don't know when they came into the vault. Mr. Herag, as a great mystic, ordinary riches might not catch your eye. Feel free to look around and see if there's anything you need. Herag nodded and walked ahead. The vault was as large as a football field, cluttered with various treasures, making him dizzy with delight, not knowing where to start. This armor set is... Herag spotted a suit of full armor in the corner. The material of the armor was special, and he couldn't determine what it was made of. More importantly, the armor seemed to have some magic resistance effects. He infused a little magic power into it and was met with resistance. This reminded Herag of Dino's ship, which was built from wood from the Forbidden Magic Forest, also possessing magic resistance, though this armor's effect was somewhat weaker. This is the armor of legendary knight Goodman's Graph, reputed to have many mysterious effects. Great Knight Goodman was a legendary figure over 300 years ago. His armor is certainly extraordinary. If Mr. Herag is interested, he may take it. Huan introduced as he noticed Herag's gaze on the armor. Herag touched the armor and shook his head. I'll look around some more. This armor didn't hold much significance for him, as he wouldn't typically wear such heavy armor. If it was for defense techniques, a dark energy shield would be more practical for him. As Herag continued forward, he suddenly stopped after a distance, spotting a pair of eyes. It was a pair of eyes submerged in a glass jar, appearing like a specimen. The eyes were bright red, and they seemed to be staring at Herag, giving him a slight discomfort. What is this? Herag recognized the shape of the eyes and felt he had seen related information in a book. Shenlan, what is this? He directly asked Shenlan. Based on the search, the probability that these are eyes of the Cultivation race is 98.34%. The Cultivation race was a species residing in the remote mountainous regions of the Kala continent, whose eyes turned crimson when emotionally agitated. This color was regarded as one of the world's 7 great beauties. Many nobles offered high prices for such red eyes, leading to the massacre of the Cultivation race, currently extinct. Shenlan replied with detailed information, and Herag, seeing this information, remembered that these eyes were also rare magic potion materials. Although he didn't need them at the moment, they could be useful in the future. Given they were extinct, it wouldn't hurt to hold on to them. This thing is not bad. I'll keep it for now and decide later if I want it. Herag pointed at the crimson eye. Huan nodded with a smile and said, Mr. Herag has a keen eye, immediately spotting this now extinct Cultivation race eye. Seeing Herag choose this made him very happy because this item wasn't very valuable. Only some nobles who collected human body parts will buy such things. Ordinary people couldn't appreciate nor like them. Cultivation race eyes were only popular among nobles 200 years ago. At that time, nobles were infatuated with this crimson color, which made the price of Cultivation eyes extremely high. Only the great nobles had the means to purchase and admire them. But now this thing is no longer in vogue, and naturally the price has gone down too. As for the matter of a race disappearing because of this, no one cared, nor would anyone speak up for them. Wizards' hobbies are indeed quite special. Huan found this matching his imagination of wizards. Herag continued to walk forward, noting down some things he liked along the way, planning to compare after looking at everything to decide which 3 items he wanted. This necklace is quite beautiful. As Herag wandered, he saw a necklace. A huge blue gemstone was hanging from it, with 2 flowers sculpted in gold on top, inlaid with more than a dozen smaller gems. When Huin saw this necklace, he hesitated for a moment, but then smiled and said, "This is the famous Queen Melani's necklace, known as the Heart of the Ocean, a necklace countless women dream of." Queen Melani was very famous. Even Herag had read related histories. Queen Melani was the queen of an ancient kingdom 1,000 years ago, extremely beautiful, renowned as the greatest beauty of the north. To this day, her portraits are sold at exorbitant prices, with many great nobles spending lavishly at auctions to acquire them. "I didn't expect her necklace to be here with you. Is it real?" Herag questioned. Startled by Herag's imposing manner, Huin quickly said, "Yes, it's real. My father acquired it at a great cost when he was young." "All right, this is also good." Herag planned to give this as a gift to Lillian. After all, he had previously taken so many things from Lillian without payment. He should return some gifts. Huin felt a bit of pain, but he couldn't take back the words he had spoken. After all, the person in front of him was a wizard. It was already good fortune not being robbed of more by him, let alone daring to go back on his word. The Violet Kingdom is under the protection of the Wizard Organization, and generally, wizards do not trouble these great nobles. But if Herag bullied him a little, Huin would have no one to complain to. Unless Herag completely looted his possessions, the higher-ups of the kingdom wouldn't bother reporting to the Wizard Organization for him. Herag naturally noticed the flash of pain on Huin's face, smiled, and continued exploring the treasure trove. Most were just ordinary treasures. After wandering for a while, Herag discovered a peculiar item. A pink doll lay quietly atop a pile of gold, made of ordinary cloth material. In the treasure trove filled with treasures, such a cloth doll stood out starkly, incongruous with everything around it. Herag's expression became somewhat solemn. Shenlan analyzed this doll, comparing with the database. After comparison, the doll is most likely a resentful doll, a top casting material for many high-level curse magic. Shenlan quickly provided the result. Herag frowned. "I didn't expect it to be this thing. No wonder there are so many negative energy particles." From afar, he could sense the negative energy particles entwining around the resentful doll and the intense malice. This item is a top casting material for high-level curse magic. What's termed high-level curse magic refers to level 1 spells used by official wizards. The resentful doll is exceptionally rare and almost impossible to artificially create, only forming in certain special places. Such places generally harbor many casting materials, magic potion materials, and are invaluable to every wizard. However, such places generally also present certain dangers, depending on the specific circumstances. "Where did you get this thing?" Herag asked as he held the resentful doll. This item isn't something ordinary people could come into contact with. Herag hadn't expected it to appear in a regular noble's treasure trove. "This?" Huin stuttered as he looked at the resentful doll. "I'm asking you, where did you get it?" Herag impatiently asked again. Huin stammered. "This doll is an ominous object. Mr. Herag best not take it." "You keep an ominous object in a treasure trove? I know better than you what this is. Tell me where it came from." Herag continued to inquire. Wiping the sweat from his forehead, Huin said, "This doll was brought by a thief, said to have mysterious powers. So I bought it and kept it in the treasure trove, nearly forgetting about it." "A thief? What is his name? Where is he?" Herag sensed that Huin wasn't telling everything, so he continued to ask. "His name is Robert, a Grand Knight level thief. I don't know exactly where he is now. You can ask at the Adventurers Association. He's quite famous." Fearful that the situation wasn't simple, Huin quickly spilled everything he knew like beans from a bamboo tube. A Grand Knight level thief? Herag suddenly thought of the thief who'd been following him the other day. Perhaps it was the same person. There couldn't be two grand night-level thieves appearing so shortly. Understood. Herag nodded. I'll take this doll, the Heart of the Ocean necklace, and the Crimson Eye. After speaking, he put away the resentful doll, then started to head back, picking up the Heart of the Ocean necklace and the Crimson Eye. Huin followed behind with a forced smile, not daring to express any opinion. Herag was merely informing him, not negotiating with him. After selecting the 3 items, Herag left the treasure trove, with Huin struggling behind him to push the door shut. Even that modest-looking door seemed heavier than it appeared, with Huin's face turning red as he barely managed to close it. As Huin closed the small door, he wiped his sweat and gasped for breath, quickening his steps to catch up with Herag before he got too far away. The outermost layer's main door didn't require his personal effort. 2 night-level guards stood by to close it. Seeing Huin anxiously closing doors, Herag found it somewhat amusing, as Huin seemed very afraid that he would loot his treasure trove. Herag, though tempted, still maintained reason. The Violet Kingdom falls under the jurisdiction of the Aluf Swamp, which is also a powerful wizard organization. The strength of these nobles shouldn't be underestimated. If he truly went overboard, they could certainly contact the Aluf Swamp, and he'd be in trouble, as it was someone else's territory. Causing trouble wasn't sensible. Mr. Herag, will you continue to the late-night banquet or? Huin caught up and asked with his head lowered. Herag stretched lazily. I'm going back to rest. I won't be attending the banquet any longer. All right, then I wish Mr. Herag a good rest. Huin nodded and smiled. When Herag returned to his lodging in the palace, he found the 2 maids still waiting at the door. Does the master need a bath? The maid asked with her head lowered. A bath? Herag realized it had been days since he'd last bathed, and nodded. Yes, you can go prepare it. Yes. A maid responded softly, and then withdrew to make the preparations. The room Herag stayed in had a large bathtub, which should be quite comfortable for soaking. Shortly after the maid left, she returned to report at the door. Sir, the water is being prepared. It will be ready shortly. Herag nodded and lay down on the bed. In this world, taking a bath was quite troublesome. It required boiling water on site and carrying buckets of it to the bathtub. There were no water pipes or anything like that. After more than half an hour, 4 strong guards came with wooden buckets. Steam was rising from the hot water inside, indicating it had just come off the boil. After pouring the hot water into the bathtub, the guards returned with 2 buckets of cold water. After pouring 1 bucket, one of them said, Sir, please check if the temperature is suitable. If it's too hot, we'll add more cold water. Herag walked to the bathtub, dipped his hand in to check the water temperature, and remarked, It's about right. You can leave now. The guards quickly retreated, but the 2 maids remained. Herag turned back. What are you still standing there for? The maids lowered their heads. We're here to serve you during the bath, sir. Herag laughed. I know. What I meant was, why are you still standing? Take off your clothes. The 2 maids exchanged a glance, a slight blush on their faces, and then slowly began to undress. Herag knew they misunderstood him, but he didn't stop them. The next morning, Herag pushed aside the fair arms draped over him and got up to dress. It's fine once in a while, but I can't live like a decadent noble, Herag thought after getting up, then meditated for a while to calm his mind and dispel many stray thoughts. After leaving the room, he immediately saw Huin and his 3 sons outside the palace. Mr. Herag is awake. Did you rest well last night? Huin asked with a smile. Not bad, Herag nodded. Huin smiled. That's good to hear. Oh, and Mr. Herag, I'm feeling much better now. The wound has healed a lot. It was difficult before. It's just a superficial wound now. It won't take long to heal completely, Herag remarked. Thank you, Mr. Herag, for saving my father. Josh is very grateful. Josh expressed gratefully. Herag glanced at the sky and said, I need to go out. I'll be leaving in a couple of days, so I won't bother you for long. Huin quickly replied, Mr. Herag, it's no bother at all. We're more than happy to have you here. If possible, please stay longer, and we'll provide whatever you need. By the way, where's Mr. Herag going? Maybe I can help. He promptly offered assistance, as it was rare for something in Markfield City to be beyond his reach. All right, I was planning to visit the Adventurers Association, Herag thought, realizing who might be able to help. The Adventurers Association? What was Mr. Herag planning to do there? Huin felt a vague sense of foreboding. I'm planning to find that thief named Robert and ask him some questions, Herag said casually. Huin laughed. Such a small matter shouldn't trouble Mr. Herag. Don't worry. I'm well acquainted with the people at the Adventurers Association. I'll just have to talk to them. But be prepared. Robert is quite elusive and may not be in Markfield City. No problem. I just need to know where he is. Herag decided to find this Grand Knight-level thief to ask some questions. Huin nodded with a playful smile. I'll go inquire for Mr. Herag right away. Then I'll wait for your news. Herag turned back into the room, preparing to continue his meditation practice. The reason he wanted to find Robert was simple. He wanted to ask about the origin of the resentful doll. He needed to know where it came from to make future plans. If Herag guessed correctly, the source of the resentful doll wouldn't just have one type of casting material. There must be other valuable things there. However, such a place might also harbor dangers that needed to be assessed carefully after gathering more information. Count Huin was very efficient. Within just an hour, he personally came to report back. Not in Markfield City, Herag asked, casually popping a grape into his mouth. Huin wiped sweat from his forehead. Yes, I just consulted the chairman of Markfield City's Adventurers Association. Robert went out a couple of days ago. Where did he go? Herag inquired. The information suggests he's on a mission in Storm City, tasked with protecting a noble, Huin explained. Storm City? Herag recalled the map and realized it was south of Markfield City, outside the jurisdiction of the Tassoni territory. It's under Duke Theodore's domain. If Mr. Herag plans to go, I can write you a letter of introduction, Huin offered. Herag gave him a sidelong glance and smiled. Sure, write me the introduction letter. I'll set off right away. Now? So urgently? Count Huin was quite surprised. I don't have much to do here. If I delay, I might lose track of Robert. Herag decisively began packing his belongings. Seeing Herag's determination to leave, Huin remarked, I'll arrange it for Mr. Herag immediately. Huin quickly got Herag a carriage and a robust coachman. He had also arranged for the two maids who served Herag the previous night. No need for the maids. I'm not going out for leisure, Herag refused, having no time to take care of them, nor could he cast them aside once he was tired of them. For nobles, these maids were just property. Staying in the castle ensured a secure life. Outside, once leaving Herag, they lacked even basic survival skills. Count Huin originally planned to arrange a bunch of guards, but Herag thought about it and refused. The symbolic significance of these guards was greater than their actual function. If he could handle it himself, he didn't need them, and if he couldn't, these guards would be of no use either. Moreover, within the territory of the Banks family, few bandits dared to attack their carriages, making the presence of guards somewhat redundant. Herag finally left only the driver, someone to navigate the roads, allowing him to have some peace of mind. "Mr. Herag." Josh hesitated to speak. Herag was about to board the carriage, turned around and smiled. "Your father can live for a long time yet. There should be not much trouble now. If the dark energy particles in Count Huan weren't removed, he indeed wouldn't have long to live, and these two brothers would surely wage a great battle for power and profit. Now, Count Huan can live for at least another few decades, so there's no need for the brothers to fight to the death. They can comfortably be noble scions." Josh seriously nodded. "Take care, Mr. Herag." Herag's carriage was evidently prepared meticulously by Huan. Inside was a spacious bed covered in soft silk, allowing for comfortable rest during the journey. Behind the bed, there was a cabinet on the wall with bottles of red wine inside. Food and other supplies were stacked in the latter half of the carriage, plenty for Herag and the driver to enjoy. The driver's name was Sid, 19 years old. He appeared to be a clever young lad. The carriage's exterior was luxuriously adorned. Especially the emblem of the Banks family was quite prominent, prompting pedestrians on the street to quickly dodge aside, afraid to approach. Herag lay inside the carriage, silently meditating. The seventh star in his mind was slowly forming. Herag completed his meditation practice leisurely every day without urgency, until finding a method to effectively speed up meditation. Such things cannot be rushed. 2 hours later, Herag slowly opened his eyes. He stroked his chin thoughtfully. It is estimated that it will take another 3 months to complete the meditation of this star, and based on this calculation, it will take more than a year to meet the promotion requirements for a third-class wizard apprentice. This body is 15 years old. I need to advance to an official wizard before 18. Most official wizards are promoted before 18. If it exceeds 18, the probability of promotion to an official wizard is quite small. Herag temporarily didn't understand the principle. All he could do was to improve his strength as soon as possible and let his spiritual power meet the standard early. Shenlan, search for methods to accelerate meditation or enhance spiritual power. Searching, 165 methods found. Herag looked at the long list and continued to give instructions. Filter for methods with no side effects, suitable for me, and achievable at this stage. 1. Formulate magic potions to assist meditation, accelerating meditation speed. 2. Formulate magic potions to increase spiritual power, more quickly meeting promotion requirements. Shenlan provided 2 methods that seemed feasible at this stage. Herag continued to ask, "Is there a formula for a magic potion to accelerate meditation?" The formula requires research, and the main body needs to experiment and verify. Then simulate the formula for a potion to speed up meditation. How long will it take? Task has been archived, expected to take 6 hours, estimated to consume 19% magic power. Herag was a bit surprised. It actually takes so long. He didn't expect Shenlan to take 6 hours to complete this task. This task involves multiple data calculations and simulations, so it will take longer, Shenlan explained. Herag planned to let Shenlan complete this task first before simulating the formula for a potion to increase spiritual power, but he didn't have much hope. Existing potion formulas can also increase spiritual power, but their price wasn't something Herag could consider now. Magic potions that can directly increase spiritual power are very expensive. Herag didn't think Shenlan could create a cheap version. 3 hours later, the speed of the carriage began to slow down. They had already left the city, traveling through desolate countryside for a long time. Sid, sitting in the carriage head, said, "My lord, I remember there's a village ahead. We can rest there tonight." Herag lightly responded. Staying overnight in populated places never goes wrong. In deserted areas, anything might happen. The carriage slowly came to a stop. Sid lifted the curtain, bowed his head, and said, "My lord, we're here. Herag got off the carriage. Ahead was a dilapidated village, houses all made of piled-up earth, resembling caves inhabited by primitive people. Most people in the village hid in their houses, peeking through doors or windows, quietly observing Herag and Sid. At the village's entrance stood an elder with grayed hair, who, upon seeing Herag disembark, trembled and knelt. "Spare us, my lord. We will pay the taxes we owe as soon as possible. We truly can't gather any money now. Please grant us some more time." Herag glanced at him and said, "I am not here to collect taxes. I am merely passing through and plan to stay here for the night. Please excuse the disturbance." "Not here for that." The elder laboriously lifted his head, straining to observe the carriage. "But on the carriage, it clearly is." Sid explained at this point, "Herag is a guest of our bank's family, merely passing through today." Only then did the old man realize he might indeed have misunderstood, letting go of some weight in his heart. "Bring out your best food. My lord is weary from travel, and prepare the best room for my lord to rest," Sid ordered unceremoniously. The elder looked troubled, but dared not defy, quietly saying, "I will prepare it right away." Herag looked at the impoverished village and thought to himself, what could they possibly prepare? He reached out to stop the elder. "No need. We have enough food ourselves. From what I've seen, you probably don't have any suitable places here either. I'll rest in the carriage tonight, so we won't disturb you further." This, Sid was surprised, considered such arrangements quite natural, unexpected that Herag intended to sleep on the carriage. He had thought of selecting a pretty girl from these peasants to send to Herag in the evening. Herag gave him a stern look. "We are only staying here for the night. Don't cause an uproar among them. I prefer quietness." Seeing Herag's slightly threatening gaze, Sid bowed and said, "Understood, my lord." Herag did not think of himself as a savior, nor could he offer any help to these peasants. This was a societal issue that he alone could not change. But he couldn't bring himself to absorb the blood of these starving, skin-and-bones peasants when he had food to satisfy himself. Herag didn't even enter the village. He started settling down at a flat spot near the village entrance. He took a pot and stove from the carriage, sending Sid to find some firewood nearby, then skillfully lit a fire and started cooking. In front of Sid, Herag snapped his fingers and a flame sprang to life, making Sid widen his eyes in awe and regard Herag with even more reverence. Count Huin had generously provided supplies, including cured meat, butter, cheese, and a variety of vegetables. Herag made a stew with these ingredients. With spices, it was bound to taste decent no matter what. "Here, serve yourself as much as you want to eat," Herag said, handing Sid a bowl from the carriage. Sid was flattered and hastily replied, "Sir, I can just eat dry rations. If I tell you to eat, then you eat. Don't make me repeat myself," Herag said impatiently. Sid nodded. "Thank you, sir." Carefully, he used a fork to spear a piece of meat and some vegetables from the pot, then squatted by the carriage to eat. Herag devoured the entire pot of meat and vegetables. His body was growing ever stronger, and his appetite was increasing. The aroma of the meal wafted into the village. Many villagers smelled it, but didn't dare come closer, fearing they might anger the prominent person by the carriage. Herag had no intention of distributing food, as the supplies were for the rest of the journey, and a shortage would only cause problems later. He had been in this world long enough to understand many issues stemmed from the era and society, and he didn't have the power to change things. Several hours later, as Herag was lying reading, the sound of Shenlan's enhancement beeped up. Task completed. The formula for accelerating main meditation speed potion has been calculated. Ingredients are as follows: 100 milliliters of pure water, 30 milliliters of mist tree man juice, 10 grams of dragon's toothgrass powder, 3 drops of poisonous violet juice, 9 grams of dragon's bloodgrass powder, 5 drops of mandala juice. Herag looked at the formula, contemplating the characteristics of these materials' interactions. He couldn't experiment at the moment and would have to wait until he had the chance to verify the effects later. Shenlan, infer a magic potion formula for increasing spiritual power. Task filed. Expected time, 6 hours and 30 minutes. Estimated magic power consumption, 21%. After issuing the command, Herag continued to read, with an oil lamp burning inside the carriage, casting a dim light. Only the sound of insect could be heard outside the carriage, with no human noise. The village lay deathly still, as if everyone knew an important person was at the entrance that night and dared not disturb him. The next morning at dawn, Herag ended his meditation early, then kicked Sid, who was sleeping beside the carriage, awake, informing him to proceed. Herag didn't want to linger in that place, feeling that just standing there put immense pressure on the villagers, making the atmosphere very oppressive. There was a small stove fixed to the floor of the carriage. Herag lit it to brew a pot of coffee. The stove was cleverly designed, with a conduit leading outside the carriage to vent smoke. Herag still opened the carriage window as a precaution. After finishing these tasks, Herag waited for the coffee to brew while continuing to read the spell model book of the Dark Energy Shield. Soon after, the Shenlan inferred magic potion formula for increasing spiritual power was completed. Task completed. The formula for increasing spiritual power potion has been calculated. Ingredients are as follows: 100 milliliters of pure water, 50 grams of star crystal, 5 grams of black-edged sunflower powder, 4 drops of hallucinogenic herb, essential oil. Herag frowned. These materials are not simple. It seems Shenlan's inferences are still very costly. He thought for a moment and decided to put the formula aside, as the recipes provided by Shenlan might not be correct, and they required experimental verification. However, these materials were too expensive and the experimental costs were high. He didn't have the money for experiments at the moment. 6 days later, the carriage arrived at Storm City's territory. Along the way, Herag encountered 2 attempts to intercept him, both by destitute victims of famine trying to rob him because they couldn't find food. The local lords didn't care about their lives, so they had no choice but to resort to robbery on the roads. Herag didn't make things difficult for them. He performed a simple magic, and the destitute victims fell to their knees in pleas. More interestingly, the local lords warmly welcomed Herag, clearly having gotten word that an important person was passing through. Herag looked at the table full of food and drink, remembering the starving, skin-and-bone refugees, and shook his head helplessly. After entering Storm City's territory, patrol soldiers could be visibly seen, armed to the teeth. Herag was soon stopped for the first time, but passed through smoothly. The bank's family crest on the carriage served as an excellent identity proof, not to mention that Herag had 2 letters of introduction written by Count Huan. One letter was for Duke Theodore of Storm City, and the other for the president of the Adventurers Association in Storm City. Herag didn't plan to find Duke Theodore. The letter was just to reduce potential trouble at critical moments. His main objective was to find the Adventurers Association president, and then find Robert to inquire about some matters. After half a day of riding, Herag finally saw Storm City in the distance. It was a city even grander than Markfield City, with taller and thicker walls. Most importantly, the city had a sense of ruggedness and history, making one feel instantly like they could see the rich history in the walls. "Where to first, sir?" Sid asked after passing the gate guard's inspection. "I heard from Huan that your family has a base here." Herag inquired. Before coming, Huan mentioned that Herag could settle at the bank's family base in Storm City, at least to have a place to stay initially. Sid nodded. "Yes, the family business has assets here." Herag said, "Then let's settle down first, and then head to the Adventurers Association." "All right." Sid eagerly drove the carriage forward. He had been in a good mood since arriving in Storm City. The bank's family had a diverse business in Storm City, including taverns, casinos, inns, an herb shop, a blacksmith shop, and more. The carriage stopped at a place called Bank's Inn, and soon an attendant came out, leading the horses to the backyard for proper feeding. Herag's room was swiftly arranged. It was the largest and best room available. "Do you know where the Adventurers Association is?" Herag asked after securing the room key. Sid hastily answered, "Yes. I've often come to Storm City to handle business for the master and young master, so I'm very familiar with it." "Good. You lead the way," Herag nodded. The horse of the carriage had already been swapped for a strong, tall stallion. The once luxurious and extravagant carriage of the Banks family didn't stand out much on the streets of Storm City, as such carriages were a common sight, many even more ornately decorated. The headquarters of the Adventurers Association in Storm City had a 5-story building, with the first floor serving as the quest hall, bustling with people dressed as adventurers coming and going. "I wonder how Emil and the others are doing." Herag recalled that Emil had also become an adventurer, supporting Jimmy and the others by taking on various tasks. Back when he settled in the Moonlight Forest, he had written a letter. However, it was destined to be a long time before Emil could receive it, as the letter needed to cross vast oceans and wait for a ship to pass by Colson Continent to be delivered. It might encounter various accidents along the way, and the letter could possibly never arrive. Given the time, Emil's child should have been born by now, and I'm still his godfather. Herag felt somewhat sentimental as he remembered these matters. Malcolm. Herag thought of this person again, astonished that Malcolm, even in the Green Cottage, was a well-known level 1 wizard with formidable strength. Baron Buck falling into the hands of such a person was unfortunate, resulting in the annihilation of the entire family, leaving only Emil as a survivor. Conduct like Malcolm's on Kala Continent would surely be stopped, but on Colson Continent, there's no one to manage it, leaving him to act lawlessly. Herag, of course, wasn't foolish enough to stand up and protest against Malcolm's massacre of ordinary people, as without sufficient strength, he could only avoid Malcolm. As soon as Herag entered the hall, he attracted many people's attention. The hall had many adventurers, and night-level experts were a common sight. Herag's naturally emanating powerful aura instinctively made these adventurers wary, adding a touch of apprehension towards him. Sid proactively sought out the staff of the Adventurers Association, and soon he returned with a blonde-haired man. "Sir, this is Milo Kaler, Vice President of the Adventurers Association of Storm City," Sid introduced. Milo nodded, extended his hand, and said, "Greetings, esteemed guest. I am a vice president here. You can speak to me about any matters you have." Herag took out Count Huen's letter of introduction. "This is Count Hu Inbank's letter of introduction." "Oh, it's addressed to the president, but the president is not present in Storm City at the moment. Since it's a letter of introduction, it's all right for me to look at it. I am temporarily handling all of the president's affairs." Milo took the letter, opened it, examined it carefully, and after verifying the signature, nodded. "Mr. Herag, please head upstairs, as there are too many people and eyes here." Milo invited Herag upstairs to discuss matters. The second floor was Milo, the vice president's office, where Sid stopped at the doorway, standing as a guard. After pouring Herag a glass of water, Milo said, "Mr. Herag, are you a mystic?" "Yes, that's correct," Herag nodded. Milo smiled and said, "Mr. Herag, please don't misunderstand. According to Duke Theodore's regulations, if mystics enter the city, we are required to register them." "Understood. I am aware of the rule." Herag knew the regulation. For ordinary people, these wizards were too dangerous, and most large cities had similar regulations. However, generally, wizards wouldn't voluntarily register, and local authorities typically wouldn't provoke them. This regulation's significance wasn't substantial. "Where is Robert now?" Herag straightforwardly asked. Milo nodded. "He has already been informed. Before Mr. Herag arrived, we received notification from Count Huen, Robert has deliberately stayed in Storm City during this time to await Mr. Herag. All right, I'll wait for him here for a while. By the way, do you have many great night-level personnel in the association? Herag asked, relaxedly reclining on the sofa with his eyes closed. Milo was somewhat taken aback, then smiled. There are just 3 great night-level individuals in Storm City, and currently, only Robert frequently takes on quests. Herag roughly knew. It seems the one following behind that day was Robert. His strength is indeed quite good. Half an hour later, there was a knock at the door, and a man's steady and powerful voice came through. Milo, I'm here. Robert has arrived. Sorry to keep you waiting, Mr. Herag. Milo smiled as he stood to open the door. When the door opened, Herag looked towards the entrance, confirming Robert was indeed the grand night-level thief from that day. Initially, Robert was stunned upon seeing Herag. His expression fluctuated slightly. Then he quickly adjusted, pretending not to recognize Herag. It's really him. Did he recognize me? No. That day, he probably only sensed my presence, but couldn't have seen what I looked like. He shouldn't be able to recognize me. Robert's mind raced as he walked over. Robert, this is Mr. Herag. He wants to inquire about some matters. You two have a chat. I'll be off to handle the association's affairs, Milo said, having completed his task once Robert arrived. Have a seat, Herag stated, sitting on the sofa, taking a leisurely sip of water. All right. Robert felt inexplicably tense. It had been years since he ever trembled when killing, yet he felt nervous at that moment. He sat on the sofa uprightly, like a child caught doing something wrong. Did you acquire this? Herag brought out the resentful doll, speaking candidly. Upon seeing the resentful doll, Robert gasped. Robert was at a loss, unsure how to respond to the question. He knew Herag was a mysterious wizard, fearing an incorrect answer might cost him his life. No need to be nervous. I just want to ask where you found it. I won't do anything to you, Herag reassured him. Robert took a deep breath, calming himself. I indeed obtained this doll, but I found it. Found it? Herag asked with a hint of skepticism. Seeing Herag's dubious gaze, Robert hurriedly added, It's true. It was found. That person was likely a wizard, dressed in a robe, holding this doll. I thought that something a wizard clung to even in death must be valuable, so I summoned the courage to pick it up. But after I took it, the doll gave me an uncomfortable feeling. It wasn't likely anything good, probably something ominous, so I sold it to Count Huan. Those nobles, aren't short on money and enjoy collecting such things. Throughout, Herag monitored Robert's state, receiving from Shenlan a probability of 99.6% that he was telling the truth. After a moment of pondering, Herag asked, Where exactly did you find it? Picked it up on the only path leading into the mountains outside Valley Town. Robert said, glancing at Herag as if to gauge his reaction. He continued, I really found it. That wizard's death had nothing to do with me. Seeing Robert's eagerness to explain, Herag knew he was misunderstood. So he said, I have nothing to do with that wizard. I don't even know who he is, and I'm not here to accuse anyone because of his death. Only after hearing this did Robert relax and breathe a sigh of relief. Valley Town. Herag had never heard of this place before. He looked at Robert and asked, Where's Valley Town? Just east of Storm City, about a 3-day ride away. Robert was familiar with these places and spoke without any hesitation. Is there anything special about that place? Herag was a bit puzzled as to why a wizard would die there. Robert scratched the back of his head, thought for a moment, and said, Not that I know of. It's just an ordinary mountain town with a relatively small population. Are there any special rumors about the place? Ghost stories are fine too. Herag continued to ask. Robert shook his head. I'm not too sure about that. I'm not a local. There should be some ghost stories. There's always a few such tales in every place. If you want to know more, you'd best ask the locals. Does the Adventurers Association have any information on that place? Herag asked. Robert nodded. They should. The association usually keeps records of the surrounding areas. Don't leave yet. We might need you to lead the way later. Herag stood up, ready to look into the Adventurers Association's records. Upon hearing the news, Milo quickly rushed over, taking Herag and Robert to the fourth floor. The fourth floor resembled an archive, with rows of cabinets filled with files. These are records of the surrounding geography. Let me see for Valley Town. It should be here. Milo searched through the cabinets and finally stopped in front of one, opened it, and took out a file folder. Milo handed the file folder to Herag. This contains all the information about Valley Town for the past 30 years. Herag took the file folder and pulled out a thick stack of documents. He sat down on a long bench nearby, slowly perusing the Valley Town records. Valley Town has a history of over 200 years, with a population consistently between 2 to 300. From the records, it appears to be a very ordinary town with nothing special about it. The records note some information from the past 30 years, the most serious being geological disasters like landslides, but nothing seemingly unusual. Could it be this isn't the place? Originally, Herag suspected Valley Town might be the production site of the resentful doll, potentially a resource point, rich in casting materials and magic potion materials. Places like this usually have some strange occurrences, which for ordinary people would be supernatural events. However, this Valley Town was too ordinary, without any anomalies. Vice President Milo, do you know anything about this place? Herag asked after reviewing the materials. Milo thought for a moment and said, I'm sorry, I'm not very familiar with it. It's just an ordinary town. A wizard died there not long ago. Did you know? Herag asked Milo. Milo was a bit surprised. A wizard? I hadn't heard about that. Herag glanced at Robert. That's what he said. Robert explained, I did indeed find a dead body out there on that mountain path with that doll in its hand, but I can't confirm if it was a wizard. I judged it based on the attire. But I haven't heard any follow-up news from there either, so it might not even be a wizard. Milo queried. That can't be right, whether the deceased was a wizard or not. I haven't heard of anyone dying in Valley Town. When did you find the body, Robert? About 2 months ago, Robert replied truthfully. Milo shook his head. Impossible. For the last 2 months, I haven't heard of any deaths there. Unless Robert was the only one who saw the body, and someone disposed of it before anyone else could notice. The Adventurers Association is typically very informed, and with Valley Town's small population and only one path leading out of the mountains, any death on that path would surely be discovered and reported by the locals. Yet, the Adventurers Association had no information whatsoever in this regard. Finally, something out of the ordinary. Herag thought this might be related to a mysterious event or simply a human-created incident. He stood up and said, Robert, come with me. Lead the way to Valley Town. All right, Robert nodded, not daring to refuse. Herag had Shenlan record the Valley Town information, but found no valuable insights yet. He returned the file folder before heading downstairs. To Sid, who was waiting below, he said, I'm going out for a while. You should go back first. Sir, don't you need me to accompany you? Sid eagerly offered his assistance. Herag shook his head. You're too weak. If anything happens, I won't have time to look after you. You should go back first. Herag's blunt remarks left Sid awkwardly scratching his head. Then I'll be going back now, sir. Milo arranged 2 horses and prepared some dried food and water for Herag and Robert. Though Storm City was some distance from Valley Town, and despite their great strength, the duo still needed basic supplies. Without delay, Herag mounted the horse and headed towards the city gate, with Robert close behind. In the city, Herag had to maintain his speed, but once outside, he gave the horse a hard kick to the flank and dashed off. After leaving Storm City, they soon entered the mountains. The terrain here was nothing but vast stretches of mountains, slowing their pace considerably. They were either climbing or descending, unable to gallop freely as they did on flat ground. 2 days later, Herag and Robert arrived at Valley Town. A mountain path encircled the town, known for its Heaven's Edge formation. As Herag walked along the path intending to enter, a squirrel on a nearby tree jabbered incessantly. "Shut up." Robert found the squirrel annoying and scared it off with a few threats. The squirrel was indeed frightened, and with a few leaps between branches, it disappeared. "Sir, I found the deceased here that day, lying on his back, clutching the doll tightly. I had to exert some effort to pry it from his hands." Robert recounted the events of that day. Herag glanced at the spot Robert was pointing to, right at the valley entrance at the mouth of the one-line sky canyon. "Why did they die?" Herag pondered over this question, not rushing to go inside. The squirrel's cry just now bothered him. Animals usually have very sharp senses, and that was a warning cry. Of course, it could also be warning its companions of these two outsiders. "Shenlan, check if there's anything unusual around." To be cautious, Herag had Shenlan perform a comprehensive scan of the surroundings. No anomalies detected. No magic power flow detected. No magic power residue detected. Herag scrutinized Shenlan's detection results. Everything appeared normal. He glanced at the valley and took a step inside. Nothing unusual, and nothing happened. Herag closed his eyes to sense, finding the free energy particles around were very normal, with no special fluctuations or flows. The light in the Heaven's Edge was relatively dim. The cliffside at the roadside was somewhat damp, with water flowing down in some places. Herag followed the mountain road, quickly passing through the canyon area of the one-line sky canyon, finding the view ahead wide open. A small town sat on a distant hillside with wooden houses quietly nestled among the mountains, occasionally seeing people walking by. The town entrance had a small tavern. When Herag entered, there weren't many people inside. Only 3 people split between 2 tables, with butterbeer on the tables. As Herag and Robert entered, the tavern, which had been filled with conversation, quieted down. The 2 sitting together looked like hunters, while the man sitting alone seemed like a blacksmith from his clothes. When the 2 hunters saw Herag and Robert, they frowned, appearing wary of them. The 2 picked up their glasses and drained their butterbeer in one go, then left without saying a word. The blacksmith glanced at the 2 of them, smiled, and took a sip of beer. His glass still had more than half full, indicating he wasn't planning to leave soon. Herag went over and smiled. "Mind if we share a table?" The blacksmith was a big-bearded uncle. He laughed. "Of course not. Your new face is here. Are you here for business?" Herag pulled out a chair and sat down, telling the bartender, "2 butterbeers, please." After ordering, he turned back to the blacksmith uncle and said, "I won't beat around the bush. I'd like to ask if you know about a death on a mountain road outside, around 2 months ago." 2 months ago? The blacksmith uncle stroked his beard thoughtfully. "No, I don't think so. This is a small place. If someone died, we locals would surely know, but I haven't heard of such a thing." He took a sip of beer and continued. "This place is usually very peaceful, rarely any murders. There aren't many people here, connections are simple, and as far as I know, there's seldom deep hatred." The beer Herag ordered soon arrived, 2 large, full mugs. He wasn't accustomed to it at first, but got used to it after drinking more, mainly because there weren't many options. After taking a sip, Herag said, "We just heard about it, so we came to ask." The blacksmith uncle realized, "I see, then the news must be wrong. You know how it is, some stories drift far and deviate from the truth." We'll ask elsewhere later," Herag nodded. The blacksmith uncle continued, "You must be from a Storm City investigation team. I guess you came to investigate after hearing about a murder. You'll likely be making a trip for nothing. I've been here for years. There couldn't have been a murder without me knowing." Investigation team? Storm City no longer has such an organization. Now it's the Adventurers Association handling these matters, Robert interjected. The blacksmith uncle said in confusion, "Adventurers Association? It seems I've fallen behind on the news, huh?" He laughed, taking a big gulp of beer, exhaling contentedly. After chatting with the blacksmith uncle for a while, not gaining any valuable information, Herag paid the bill and prepared to leave the tavern. "Thanks," the blacksmith uncle thanked from behind. Herag also covered his share of the beer. Herag pushed open the tavern door and found it had already turned dark outside. This place had no street lights, so except for some houses in the distance with their lights on, the roads were completely dark. "Robert, have we been inside for that long?" If I remember correctly, it was only afternoon when we entered. Herag noticed something was off. He got no response from behind, and when he turned around, Robert, who had followed him out, was gone. Herag turned back into the tavern. The lights were still on. The butterbeer on the tables remained, still bubbling. But there was no one inside the tavern. The blacksmith uncle was gone, and so was the tavern owner. Herag checked around with Shenlan's feedback. The entire tavern was empty, deathly quiet without a sound. Picking up a butterbeer mug, Herag found nothing unusual. The butterbeer seemed normal with nothing strange about it. Taking a deep breath, Herag walked out of the tavern. Lights still glowed on distant houses, and silhouettes could be seen behind the windows. Stumbling in the dark, he headed towards a house. It seemed there was more than one person inside. Reaching the door, he faintly heard conversation and a woman's laughter inside, as if an old couple were whispering at night. He knocked on the door, and instantly it fell silent, a deathly stillness. No one questioned him, and no one came to the door. Herag's knocking seemed to have pressed a pause button on the world, and the people inside seemed frozen, without making a sound. After a while, he heard the dull sound of something being dragged behind the door, and the harsh noise of a hard object scraping the ground. Bang! A muffled sound suddenly erupted. Herag listened intently, and it sounded like an axe hacking into flesh. Bang! Bang! The sound of the axe swings had a rhythm, slow and steady, reminding Herag of butchers slaughtering livestock. Bang! The door suddenly shivered. Something behind it seemed to be violently battering it. Bang! 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 The whole house started shaking. Whatever was behind the door was clearly accelerating its assault, desperately trying to break out. The door's quality was unexpectedly high. The entire house trembled from the pounding, yet the door remained unmoved. If it were an ordinary wooden door, it might have shattered in one or two hits. Herag felt a foreboding premonition, sensing a strong danger behind the door. Get away from here. Instinctively, this thought surfaced, and he quickened his pace to leave the house.